We'll give people like another minute to get in, and then we'll start doing the accountability check-in.
Hi, Maura.
Hey, how are you?
Fantastic.
Good. All right, well, let's get it started with our accountability. So we'll quickly go through how many contacts you've made since I talked to most of you yesterday, and any appointments set or attended, or any other major milestones you want to share. Debbie, you want to get us started?
Sure. I have not made any contacts yet today. I've been doing some other things, but I did find one lead on Nextdoor Neighbor, and I don't have her address or her phone number, which, by the way, is there somewhere available that we can take a name and reverse that and find a phone number or an address?
There are some programs that you can get that are kind of like a reverse lookup. I believe Mojo did have an add-on where you could take a name and find their address, or whatever information it pulled in the system up for them. There's also, Matt, remind me the name of the one we use.
I was answering.
Looking up information for people when you just have their name.
Oh, Spookio.
Spookio. Yeah, Spookio. Spokio.
Spokio. Yeah,
Spokio, not Spookio. Yeah.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Halloween. Yes.
Okay, but I did, so I am going to private message her, and I wrote a quick script, and I was wondering if I could read that and just get some feedback.
Go for it.
I thought I would write. This is Debbie with Keller Williams. I saw your post on Nextdoor Neighbor that you love your home but are considering something smaller. I understand this may not be a top priority right now, but I have a wealth of interesting and timely information about the real estate market in our area. I would love to send you some information so that when it comes time to make a move, you can make your decision with confidence. Would email be okay, or would you prefer regular mail?
Sounds good. How does everyone else think that sounds?
I think it sounds really confident and really strong and very professional.
Yeah, I agree.
Thank
Great
you.
job.
Thank you.
Do it. All right, Chelsea.
Sorry. Hi. So today I have been a little less productive so far because it's family day. My husband has it off and my daughter doesn't have school on Wednesdays. So we have done that. But sorry, my headphones are being weird. But I went out with two old girlfriends last night, and I handed up my advertisement to them, and we talked about real estate because my friend's mom's really into it, and they buy and sell a lot of their own properties. And my good girlfriend works at a local restaurant who our other friend owns, and so she thought it'd be a good idea for me to get some like table toppers made, and they'd be happy to like put them on the tables. And just some fun stuff that they're willing to do. We talked about getting like a mom's night, women in business kind of night thing going because they have an outside area. So we're going to do something fun like that. I did a little research because my clients wrote an awesome review for me, which was super kind. And they did it on Zillow, but I can't find it anywhere. And yesterday in class, we learned that, they're their own brokerage now. So I guess they're not really like posting things accurately or reviews. So I'm hoping to find a way to hunt that down. But my seller is actually going to help me create my business Facebook page because she really wants to do that. So we're going to have her put her review on there as well. So either way, but I was trying to track that down. And just like my typical check-ins on the RMLS to check for my listings for both of my buyers. And that's where I'm at today. So hopefully I'll make more progress the rest of the day.
When you got the review, did Zillow email you saying like a review left for you?
I couldn't find it, but she like
Huh.
reached out to me to do it. And so she did it and she posted it. And then yesterday in class, I can't remember. whose-
Hannah.
Yes, maybe, or maybe it was a class prior I asked, but they had said that it takes like a few days to post or to see. And so I don't know. I mean, I'm hoping it comes up somewhere, but either way or not, she's super kind and we'll utilize it somewhere else. But I was
Yeah.
hoping it would show up on Zillow. So
Let me know what you hear.
Okay.
Ernest.
Yeah, hi. Well, I just, matter of fact, just before I did my run, I saw that my accountant gates were open, so I quickly drove into the property and left a deck of my business cards, because this is a hard time for the accountants. So I left a message for them and saying, hey, look, this. If any of your clients have an interest or know anyone wanted to do real estate buying and selling, let me know.
Awesome.
And then let me see. I got a hold of an old friend on Facebook. I have not talked to her about real estate yet, but it's good to just get to know about more and more old timers and I am trying to convince my son to spend his little bit of his spare time to do my Facebook for me.
Awesome. Great. Alicia.
Good morning, or it's afternoon. I don't know what I'm saying. So I had a couple conversations yesterday evening, not last night, yesterday evening. And then I have been busy with other things today. We had our team meeting and I had another training. So I plan on making a bunch of contacts this afternoon. I also have hopefully found a property my buyer wants to go see. Came on the market this morning. So that is encouraging. And yesterday I spent a lot of time researching and looking into Keller Mortgage. Just because I have one buyer who's very limited on funds and I've been trying to figure out how we can make his offer stronger. So that was one thing that clicked. We've been having a lot of conversations in our market center about that. So I had some conversations with a couple agents who have been successful with them, as well as my principal broker. And today in our team meeting, we had a Keller Mortgage lender on the phone speaking a little bit more about it. So I feel
Awesome.
that that's going to be a really good resource for me to use.
Yeah, great. Let me know if you have any questions about it. Stephanie.
So I had two conversations with contacts since yesterday's class. I've been working on I have a spreadsheet for my Christmas card list that I send out every year. So I've been working on formatting that to do an import instead of retyping everything out. So I'll there's like, I think, I don't know, like 58 people on there. So I'll get those added to my database that aren't already in there. That's about it.
Awesome. Samantha.
This is my first day, so I don't really know what we're doing yet.
We just are doing accountability check-in. So we're all tracking how many contacts we make, with the goal of 10, and then adding 10 people to the database. So that could be the same 10 people, and then the 10 handwritten notes. Again, could be the same people. So if you're talking to someone and then getting their information to add to your database, you can send them some of your business cards and a little handwritten note. And then we all try to preview 10 homes a week as well.
Okay. I'm brand new to my group and my area, so I don't quite have that many contacts or anything yet. I don't even have my business cards yet. So
one step at a time. You got to start somewhere. Good job. All right. So Tyler.
Yeah, sure. I haven't contacted anyone new since yesterday, but I've continued some conversations from, this past week. I also, what did I do? I've continued reading in the MREA book. I'm about halfway through that. It's pretty interesting to read and also helps a lot keeping my motivation up. And also just the discipline and the new habits and things like that. I met with the owner of a cleaning company today and had a good conversation with them about business and just, shouting them out on social medias and using them and tagging them and stuff. And they took some of my business cards and gave me some of theirs. She said that over the years of running her company, she's definitely run across a lot of people who've asked her about real estate agents, and she hasn't had anybody to refer them to, and now she does. So that's pretty cool. Excited about that. And then keeping up with the social media, I can see the numbers increasing for that, which is encouraging. Because I'm not really a private person, but I've never really run social media stuff before. So like seeing those numbers increase is a little wild. But yeah, no, it's a pretty good day so far.
Good. Excellent. Excellent. Jeff?
After that great class yesterday, we have one note card we sent out, 2 communications, one with our second allied resource with some ideas that they have. We did a tech call right after the class yesterday on the co-branding, which, as you know, we've been struggling with, but made some progress there. This morning, we've got a lot of people liking our Facebook business page, but we just haven't organized advanced social media postings. And because we want to brand them with our brand, we're in the middle of creating one for our website, one for our app, one for something else, trying to get those laid out so we're not constantly worried we don't post anything. We want to try to get like maybe 2 weeks worth, one every few days, and then set it and let it go and forget it and move on to other things. So this morning, a little bit more social media posts, and we've been emailing ourselves back and forth stuff. We finally created a Google Drive. So now we can have one place that everything goes and lives so we can both share it. So it's just ongoing organization stuff, it seems like, for us, but making good progress.
Good. Great job. Leah, do you want to pipe in at all? I know it's your first day on this call as well.
Hi, yeah. Well, I've made probably about 20 new contacts this week, and I've gotten, I think, about 7 new ones as well. And then today I got a new buyer consultation set up, so that's good. I'm still working on trying to get all the moving pieces, like you guys just said, trying to get organized and have everything ready. So I've been working on finishing up marketing and everything so I can have a good schedule going forward, but I am trying to figure out how to better implement my social media into it. So great, playing around with that.
Good job. Zoe?
Yeah, just to kind of follow up with what Jeff was saying, after we got done with our last class, I had asked Matt a question if all of the people that had liked and commented and we had had conversations with after we made our big announcement in counted as contacts. So technically we have like 50 more contacts than we announced officially, but it's the matter of following up on them and getting them all on command, and it's a lot. So we've not quite gotten all of the stages done, and we're trying to build a system of like, this is what happens when this, occurs, and this is the, card that you write and tag something so we know how to send something out. It's blah, 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 that stuff.
Great job. It all come together. Kel?
Yes, after the yesterday class, actually, that's about the open houses. So then I was able to contact a few of them, and I actually got the opportunity to host an open house on this Friday. So that's the great news. And I had another few contacts, like 3 of them, and 2 of my buyers' client. And this morning they were interested in a few properties. So I'm preparing like a CMA for them. So that's what I've been doing.
Excellent. Christina.
Oops. Hi there. Oh, sorry. Hi. So I have been reaching out to previous loan officers in Portland that I actually worked with, and a few in California, and I got a referral out of it.
Awesome.
I know, so that was pretty cool. And then just been working on gathering all the documentation for an upcoming listing. And really just trying to get back in the game, just probably focusing too much on like KW Command, like the contacts, because they're kind of a mess right now in my database, and my listing presentation, just kind of, getting all that together because it was kind of outdated.
Excellent. Great job.
Thanks.
Destin?
Well, I finally broke out of my undercover agent persona and put it out on Facebook that, I finally made the change and everything. And so I've had a number of conversations with people about that throughout the US actually. And so I've got some contacts I can refer to people to in other places, which is nice. We worked with a title company, got a farm list. Yesterday we put together a bunch of we did a letter, put them, hand addressed them. They're going out in the mail today if we can make it to the post office after a class. And then just working on getting everything to come together. So that's what I've been up to.
Great job, agents here. Tori.
Hi. I'm having to get myself in the right headspace today. Yeah, I don't know when I might cry. I'm having a really stressful day, but outside of that, outside of my other job and outside of home life, I did make connection with other local vendors. So I have each month I'm hosting another person on my Facebook platform. And it's like a childhood friend that does art and portraits. And so I'm always trying to find someone that I can highlight that I truly love, that I know them personally. So that opened up a conversation. And then she also lives at home with her family. And so we talked about real estate. She gave me really sweet feedback. I mean, you never know what you're putting out there, how people are reading it, or she was like, you really have it together. Your Facebook looks awesome. And I'm like, what? Thanks. Thank you. So it was really good. And then I was able to deliver some good news to my buyer clients.
Hey.
Our appraisal, the biggest thing that we were worrying about, came back at value. So
awesome.
We just did a happy dance virtually.
Nice.
Yeah. And
now you're in the easy part.
Yes, that's what I said. I said, now it's a cakewalk, mostly a cakewalk. So, they're super excited. And then I have I got one actual new contact. So I've got to put that in to the database. But it's been really cool to just try and find out how to connect authentically. And I'm learning that just being present and intentional with people is really adding value. So what I continue to take away is just add value to people's lives. And it's been really great. So I might turn my video off every now and then. Sorry. It's a hard day.
You're totally fine. Remember, we are, as real estate agents, often on 24/7, 7 days a week, and that can wear on us, especially as we're adjusting. So remember that it's okay to give yourself grace and step away if you need to. Otherwise, just absorb all the awesome content Matt's going to give you, and then go drink afterwards.
Yes, thank you. If I can. My kids are wild today too.
Right. Oh, fine. Mommy's having a smoothie. Okay, excellent. Before I make a quick announcement and then introduce Matt, well, you guys know who Matt is, but I'll still introduce him like he's special today. I do want everyone to wish Stephanie a happy birthday, and super proud of her for tuning in and still learning and diving into her business on her birthday today. So thanks for being here, Stephanie, and happy birthday.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And then, okay. If everyone hasn't seen on the calendar, we do have the week of family reunion off. And a big reason for that is so that you guys can all participate in family reunion. It is a great way to really capitalize on it and take advantage of that week, because typically family reunion is not something that we would really push and encourage new agents to go and do right as they are fresh in the business, because the tickets are usually about $750 or $800, and then you're paying for your flights and you're paying for food and hotel. And so it ends up usually, I mean, Matt, I usually spend like $2,500, $3,000, $4,000. Yeah, like some people go a little crazy. It actually costs me more than that now too. I usually have to bring the baby, so it means I have to bring the nanny. So this is an awesome deal to go and take advantage of it from the comfort of your home. It's all virtual. There will be like main stage times where Gary Keller's talking or has the top agent panel that he's interviewing on it, but it also contains a lot of different breakout sessions. So you can actually go and choose what content you're wanting to participate in and see per that. And then if you are wanting to sign up, like check with your office. So for instance, like I know our office, and Matt, you can let me know, we're doing like group buying of tickets. So you can actually get a ticket for $80. So if you are wanting to do that, let me know. Or if you're in the Eugene Springfield office, Kate will probably reach out to you and ask you if you want to sign up. So definitely let us know if you have any questions about that.
It is a great deal, and it's a great way to network because we are worldwide.
Yep.
And referral base is another way to do business.
Yep, absolutely. Perfect, Chelsea. I'll let them know to register you. And then without further ado, we have Matt Spate here. I don't even like really introduce him. So Matt Spate has been a real estate professional for 10 years. In 2018, he joined Keller Williams Sunset Corridor, so that's our Portland office, and the Experience Growth Network. Together with his wife, Heather, they co-founded Team Spate at KWSC and doubled their production level the very first year with Keller Williams. Teaching and helping others is his passion.
It's my passion.
What fills his heart with joy. Perfect. So we are super blessed to have Matt. I joke about you all knowing him because he is our coach in Sunset Corridor. So many of you do know him and he's taught classes before. But you will get a lot out of him. You may need to keep him on topic and on time. So just nudge him if he's like going off on a venture.
You're kidding me.
Have fun.
Awesome. So I've got snow. So hey, before you click off and make
and
co-host, so I can share screen.
Yeah, and it's gonna make you host.
Okay, make me host, and then you can go off.
Okay.
All right. Can everybody see my screen? Say yes, nod your heads, because I need to hear it, because sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, right? Okay, so a little backstory. Actually, we're gonna go, I don't want to say quick, but this is my favorite class to teach, right? And I want to hit all of it. I think of listings as a different way I work with listings in a different way. Okay. And I'll go through that, but I'll go through the basics and then I'll add what we do at Team Spate. Okay. And can everybody hear me okay? Okay. So first thing, I heard a couple of people saying they're working on their listing packet, the pre-listing packet. All of that stuff is great to have. It's the warm and fuzzy feeling. But 3/4 of the time, when I get to my listing presentation, I don't even pull out my listing packet. Now I have it. It's in this pretty red folder, right? And it's great. It's all pretty. It's got, you know, roughly 40 pages. And what we talk about in pre-qualifying the seller, right? So the first thing we need to do is set the appointment. When we're setting the appointment, who wants to watch? Actually, when we want to set the appointment first. And the way I do my lead gen, one of the things that I wanted to share with you guys, one of the secrets to my success is when I do my lead gen and I make my contacts and my calls, I actually start Monday, Tuesday, and those are my real heavy lead generation days. Those are the days that I'm setting up, and I'm setting my schedule from Sunday backwards. Because oftentimes when we do our lead generation as new agents, once we get that lead, we go and we jump on it. How many people have done that, right? Somebody wants to buy a house, so then I'm going to stop doing my lead gen, and then I'm going to jump on and figure out what's going on with this. Okay, you're the professional, it's your business. And it's okay to say, hey, I have time on Saturday or Sunday or Friday to give yourself time. Because if you stop doing your lead gen that day, you stop doing your lead gen. And then you have nothing for Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Yes, you're making calls and whatnot, but if we book our appointments from Sunday to backwards to Monday, then all of our appointments are filled. If anybody's reading the MREA, it's 7 appointments for $1 million, right? 7 appointments a week. And have those time slotted and whatever works for you guys, okay? So one of the things I bring up that is because oftentimes when you get to work with the seller and you get excited about it, you just want to drop everything, go start prepping for the seller, the listing presentation. And you're like, I've got to get my listing presentation done. I've got to do all of this. I got to do everything, you know, from going to check it out, take a picture of it, do a CMA. You know, these are all steps that are involved. Yes. Okay. And I'm going to see if I can't, let's see, the listing presentation. It's a little outdated here, but if we want to, let me see if I can't play it. Let me know if you can hear this. You guys still see? Really? All right.
Matt,
Yeah.
is something supposed to be playing? Because I can't hear anything.
Can you guys hear that at all? All right. Hey, for the record, thank you for popping in. For the record, that was supposed to be the listing presentation, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. We switched off to that. So what we want to do is, I'm going to go back to, I don't want that either. Just a second. Can you guys still see me? Nobody can hear me.
No, we can see and hear you, but just not anything that you're doing on your computer. I mean, I
just
can
see-
see your
We just see
slideshow.
the slideshow.
The action reveal slide.
The action reveal slide. All right, there we go. Yeah, okay, so that didn't work and you're not missing much because it's how to get listings in Tallahassee. Okay, so so what we got, right? So we've done that. So now's the time to get our head in the game. We're gonna talk about listings today. And when I talk about my listing presentation, I walk into an appointment with the expectation that I'm going to walk out with that listing. Okay, so the first thing we have is our mindset. And the only thing we can control is our mindset. If we go in believing that we're going to get this listing, the most of the time we're going to walk out of there with the listing, and it's all about preparation. Okay, so let's raise our hands. Type 1 or 2 in the chat if you have a listing presentation. Okay. I would say don't get stressed if you don't have it. Okay. Because in time it will happen. Okay. And it's all about prioritizing. I have enough tools, right? And buyers have more tools than they've ever had before. Sellers have had more tools than they ever had before. A common theme when you're working with a seller is what? They want to be able to dictate the market. I walk into every listing with the anticipation that, okay, just saw the answers. With the anticipation that I'm going to get the listing. When we talk about pre-listing packet, I will send it over the night before to see if they are looking at it. With the listings, it's all about getting the appointment. Once we get the appointment, what I do is I prep for it. I do a CMA. I do it in this order. I do a CMA, so I know what the realtors can see. What's the real market? What's the value with actives, pendings, and solds? What's the competition? We look at the actives for the competition. Okay. We look at the pendings to see what price point it's selling, and we can also get this information off our TMOs, our total market overviews. So if we look up the area, then we can look what, at our TMOs. How many people know what the TMO is? Okay, so TMO is total market overview. It gives you a total, how many are active, pending, and the price range. It narrows it down to even the price range that you want to go into. I will tell you this. I actually put more emphasis on my TMOs and Googling the address. Google the address. If you get a listing and you have a listing appointment, I Google the address and I pull up all of the websites, all the home sites, right, that they have on their phone. Whether it's Zillow, whether it's Redfin, whether it's Realtor.com. And I check it out. I look at what those are. And it's not necessarily an accurate evaluation, but it gives me an idea of what the public can see. The public can see whether it's right or wrong. That's what they see. They see that evaluation and they see a number. And when we talk about buyer's perception, I talk about buyer's perception a lot, because when we're trying to win the seller, we have to fundamentally put them into the minds of a buyer. And every seller eventually becomes a buyer. So if we're talking to them about, say they know their neighborhood, do you have any idea what your house is worth? Okay. Most of the time, well, they'll say, I keep an eye on the house around the corner that just went for sale. I keep an eye on the neighborhood. I know we've had 3 or 4, sales in the last year. I don't know what they went for, but we've had some activity, which is good because we're getting younger. A lot of people do keep in touch with their neighborhood. And as they're doing this, they may have a value stuck in their head. They may have a friend that sold their house and it's a really hot market. Right now, it's a really hot market. It's a great time to sell. Okay, so it's how much information can we give them? Listings are scarce. There's 0.8 months of inventory. So when we talk about these numbers, these are all the numbers you want to know. And this is why education is so important. Okay, so we're going to have, so Googling the address, and we talk about buyer's perceptions. Let me finish this point. Fundamentally, if you have a computer that you want to buy that is, It's base model, $1,500. But then you have another computer that's on sale and it's base model, but then it's got a Bose stereo system and a webcam. And it's the same price. Which one are you going to buy? The one with the webcam and the stereo system, right? So that's what I talk about in buyer's perception. And that's often my example that I give them, okay? And what these evaluations do that we Google, I write them all down. I know exactly where they come in. Zillow, okay? Average buyers, average people, not just realtors, but average buyers use Zillow and know what their estimate is on their home. How many people would agree with that? Okay, so that's something we have to take into consideration, whether they're right or wrong. So one of the first things I tell my sellers is, first thing I need you to do is claim your house on Zillow. We want to get the algorithms up to where they are. We need to make sure that the square footage, the bed, you know, the bedrooms, the bathrooms, the lot size are all correct. Okay, why is that important? You can use this as at your open houses. You can use this at everything because it's something that realtors are not thinking of. Anybody use these type of tools to win their seller? Okay, so when you Google the address, we're talking about buyer's perception. So fundamentally, if you're trying to sell a home that is 5-bedroom, 2.5 bath, and Zillow has it as a 3-bedroom, 3-bath, and they have it at $539, and you put it on, you want to put it on the market at $575. See, list price determines the activity, not the sale price. Don't get married to list price. We're going to price it at a place where we're going to get the activity. Buyers are more savvy than they've ever been. 97% have a cell phone that has an app on it. Okay, and we fundamentally overlist. The buyers are going to tell us in the first 2 weekends. So no matter how hot the market is, sellers have 2 weeks to sell their house at list price or above. Other than that, the market's telling them they're overpriced. Okay, list price will determine the activity. What I mean by that is, if you're trying to sell a house with the Zestimate at 540 and you listed at 575, is that going to be, do you perceive a good deal? No. So we're going to show them how to work their way up and correct their estimates, claim their house. Okay. The other ones, Realtor.com and Redfin, are going to change when you put them in the RMLS. Zillow, as of now, is not hooked to the RMLS, but they are looking to get into their own brokerage depending on where your location is. So it's very important to also know that Zillow is probably a little bit low because they're buying houses now. So the algorithms aren't caught up. So this is how much emphasis I put on my listings, and fundamentally you watch their mind change right there. And when it changes, then you know you're in good shape, okay? So after we've done our research, we know what this is, we know what we can work with, okay? So if they're trying to sell it at 575, they're probably not going to get a lot of activity. But if I'm under what these websites say, then we're going to drive up the activity because people say, that's a good deal, we need to go see it. And competition is fierce. Okay. And that's really where you get that's where I get my list price. And as long as it comes in under that, then more people are going to come to your open houses and more people are going to get off their couch. There's going to be a sense of urgency. And my numbers probably triple when I use this strategy. The seller ultimately gets to decide what they're going to use, what price point, And when I get into my listing presentation, I explain that to them. Okay. So now I've showed them that I'm paying attention to not just what realtor tools we have, but I'm showing them what every buyer, every person has at their fingertips. So we're in tune to that. So it makes us a more knowledgeable real estate agent. Okay. Then we have the actives. What are we choosing the actives for on our CMA? That's our competition. Okay. And then we have pendings and solds. We have our TMOs, we have that. So all of these things. So when we walk in, so now I get to the listing appointment. First thing I do is I look around at the house and I find something good. What type of things are we looking at when we're walking up to the house? I'm checking out the roof. Does it have a lot of moss on it? I'm checking out siding. Has it been painted? I'm walking the house through the eyes of a buyer. And I think that's key. Okay, because they're not going to be there for showings. And it's your job not just to agree with everything that they want to do. It's your job to look at it through the eyes of a buyer to make sure that you're coming from the critical eye and you're not relying on the feedback to do your dirty work for you. So as I walk in, I greet them. Hi, my name is Matt Spate with Team Spate Real Estate at Keller Williams Sunset Corridor. We have an appointment at 3 o'clock. It's 3 o'clock. I always point out the time. Why? Because we're going to be there about 15 minutes early, kind of tour the neighborhood, and then we're going to walk up a couple minutes early and make sure that we're on time. Because notoriously, 90% of realtors are late. And your time's valuable, and so is his time. So are their time. And that's what we want to emphasize. Hi, it's Matt Spate with Team Spate Real Estate at Keller Williams. So we have an appointment at 3 o'clock. Love what you've done to the yard. Looks like you put in some new bark dust, had a landscaper come out and trim things up. That's going to show really, really nice. And that's going to go into what we're going to talk about today. Is it okay if I come into the house, if I come in and sit at the dining room table? Absolutely. They greet. Hi, nice to meet you. Come on in. I said, I'd love to sit here and this is where we're going to, sit down. And then I set up, we're here to accomplish 3 things today. Okay. So the first thing I want to do as I'm sitting there saying we have 3 things to accomplish today, I'm telling them we're going to discuss your motivation. Okay, I want to put you guys in a mindset. We're private investigators. We're marriage counselors. We put a lot of different hats on, but ultimately we're problem solvers. And they have a problem they don't know how to get to, but we have a specialized skill to get them there. So once we figure out a strategy that's best for them, that's when they're going to feel comfortable, and that's when they're going to hire us. Okay, does that make sense? So we're here to discuss your motivation. Where is it you want to move to? How soon do you want to move? What's your timeline? So we're asking what their motivation is and follow-up questions. And then we're going to tell them, then we're going to look at price. We're going to discuss a price, and then we're going to discuss whether or not you want to work with me or I want to work with you. Does anybody have a reaction to, what's your first reaction when I say whether or not you want to work with me or I want to work with you?
I would say that you are making it known that your time is valuable as well.
Absolutely, 100%. This is your business, you're the professional, and you may decide to price it at a price where I know it's not going to sell. And there's other agents for that. Okay. And so the best thing, so that's setting us up as a professional also. So the first thing I want to do is I want to walk through your home through the eyes of a buyer. And this will be the hardest thing for you to say what's coming up next is ask for the business. So as I'm looking through your house through the eyes of a buyer, I brought along seller's disclosures. Okay, so when you list with me, then we are going to move, your time is valuable and my time is valuable. And this is part of the paperwork that we're going to have to fill out. And this is everything you know about your house. And this is the number one reason that people get sued is through that misrepresentation on their disclosures. You can't help them with it. You can guide them through the question, and some of the questions, they just don't understand what it's asking, but no, you do not fill it out. Okay. So when I hand them the disclosures and a pen, they can start filling that out. Then I start walking through the house and I'm taking my RMLS input data forms and walking the house and making notes. Is there gas? What's, is the water heater? I'm trying to fill out as much of that as possible, but I'm trying to do it in 5 to 10 minutes. And I'm also taking notes of, are there any projects that aren't done? Is there a room that you walk into that's lavender from floor to ceiling, right? Or that really sticks out is, oh, wow. Because the idea is to make the house to appeal to everybody, not just the people with the same taste as you, the seller. Okay, and I'm making notes. And as I come back, I compliment them. You always compliment them. Hey, I love what you've done. The space is incredible. It flows really nice. Love the master bedroom. Say all the good things. And then say, but I do have a couple questions that I think are going to come up when the buyers look through. And we go over that list. Okay, does this make sense? These fierce conversations have to take place at the listing presentation. They may not like it, but they will appreciate it, and you're setting yourself apart from other agents. Okay, and then first thing I do when I sit down and look, after I compliment them, I ask them, how did you guys do on the disclosures? Do you have any questions for me? And usually they're about halfway through. If they're not halfway through and they haven't started it, then they're still hesitant about working with you. So we have a little more work to do. That's kind of a gauge as to more work. Okay. And what we can do in that situation is they're just not comfortable. Okay. I'm not going to ask them right there, but I'm going to go through the house and say, okay, these are the things that I found and whatnot. So what's your motivation? Where do you want to go? These are the things that we do, right? What do we do? I'm going to pull out the listing presentation. The things that we do for our listings. What the marketing strategies? Of course, professional photography and video we offer. Okay. So we're going to talk about, for them, once we discover their motivation, right? Hey, I want to move to Arizona. I want to get out of Eugene, or I want to go to Eastern Oregon. Wherever they want to go, what's your timeline? How fast do you want to get there? Okay, that's great. Now, do you have any idea what your home is worth? And that's where we start having the conversation about the pricing. The pricing, well, I think we're up in about this area, and I said, okay, have you Googled your address? And they look at me and they say, no. I said, well, 97% of people have this at their fingertips, and they all have home apps, and they all get pinged when something goes live. So when your house goes live and we publish it, it goes out and it hits their phones, and they decide right there. They look at the pictures, and then they look at the evaluation and see the price. So knowing that, I've Googled your address and I know what all of these websites say. And there's like, between 5 and 7 of them. Okay. And it's whichever one they use. People put 3 times as much emphasis on Zillow. So do you have any idea what your Zestimate is? 9 out of 10 times they say, yes, I do. Great. What is it? Well, it's set up as 539. Okay. The other thing you need to know is I need you to claim your house on Zillow. Before you go live, we need to make sure the algorithms are caught up. Your home currently shows as a 3-bedroom, 3-bath, and it's actually a 5-bedroom, 2.5 bath. So therefore our algorithms aren't going to be where they need to be. So technically, if we talk about where your price should be and where it is, where it is now, we need to figure out how to get the algorithms up. Now it's something we can't control, or we need to adjust the price. Adjust the price to maybe attract more buyers, because list price only determines activity, not sale price. And I use that at least 10 times in my presentation. Now, don't get married to list price. If I were to tell you I had a listing go live last week, we had 104 showings and we had 20 offers. This is what this strategy brings out because of the low inventories. Does anybody have any questions?
Matt, I have a question on the Zestimate.
Yep.
So sometimes when you go and actually plug in as an address into Zestimate, it says it doesn't have enough information to supply you with an estimate. And I've, on my own home, that's the case. And I've claimed it, I've updated everything, and it still shows that, it still displays that.
So that lets you know when you're doing the research that you can go on to business as usual. Now you're going to use your CMA. Now you're going to use your actives, your pendings and solds to establish a price, because Zillow's not going to hurt your listing.
Okay, great.
Okay. So in some instances, Zillow, this doesn't take effect. But if you're in the middle of a city, usually the algorithms are good. But if you're rural, it's a little bit harder. So use your discretion. And if it's not there, then it's not there.
Okay.
Okay. We talk about, so as much emphasis, I would say 8 out of 10 listings, this is applicable. Okay. I competed against 6 months after I got to KW, just finished Ignite, just finished Bold, and I'm right where you guys are at the end of this course. And I get called to do a listing presentation. And I didn't know much about it. I knew she was going to interview 3 different people, 3 different agents, and I was competing. And I went to her with this script and this everything. And fundamentally, I was the second one in, but when I was done with my presentation, she called the first agent, because usually 9 times out of 10, they use the first agent they met with because they built a relationship with. Fortunately, she still met with me, but sometimes nowadays, if I have a listing appointment, it's not unheard of that I'll have to call the other 2 agents and say, hey, we just signed a contract. But in this case, she at least gave me an opportunity. What I didn't know was my competition in that listing presentation was our CEO, who's teaching me not this, but he does 25 listings in 25 days. I'm thankful I didn't know that before I went in, because when I actually saw who got this listing, and I'll tell you where I screwed up. I didn't match their motivation. When I asked them their motivation was the house around the corner in the same neighborhood as their grandkids came on the market and just reduced the price. It had been on the market for a little bit and it just reduced the price. So the motivation was they had to get on the market ASAP if they wanted to stay in the same neighborhood, and it was the only house in the neighborhood, and it was one level, so it fit their needs. They were like, okay. When I was at the listing presentation, they had a sick grandkid, so we need to not get distracted by distractions in the house. They had a sick grandkid there. We still had the presentation, and I saw a bunch of toys, a bunch of, the house wasn't anywhere ready to be listed. And I told her it would take me 3 days to get it on the market. 3 days would have taken it till Friday. But at that point, their motivation is the house that they really want has just lowered the price and is taking offers. And I should have matched the motivation and said, I can get this on with my connections in 24 hours. So we have to match their motivation. And that's key. And the best part is after this appointment, I got the call when she made the decision, and it was the Keller verbiage. She called me and said, hey, we've decided to go another we decided to go with another agent, but feel free if you have a buyer to come bring them to my house, because we're going to go live with another agent type of thing. And I thought, that's a Keller script. And then I saw it go live and found out it was our CEO. That Monday, I congratulated our CEO, walked by his office, and I said, hey, congratulations, Craig. It was Craig Rieger at the time. He's now got his own coaching business. And I said, congratulations. And he said, did you interview Wednesday at 2? And I said, yeah. And he told me to come in his office, and next thing I know, I had a half-hour conversation with him about this listing presentation. What I didn't know is after my listing presentation, that seller had called him and asked him what he thought of Zillow, what he thought of all of these technology companies. And I said, and he said, well, I told her I don't really care. But then she asked what I said. And essentially, after we got done talking, he looked at me and he says, you're going to teach this class. Here I am 2 years later. Okay, so that was my biggest failure that's turned into my biggest success. And you know what he said? He goes, if you'd have answered 24 hours to getting that house on the market, you'd have had the listing. And I was like, oh, okay, I didn't know that. Like I said, thankful I didn't know that, but these stories, we learn from our failures. Don't worry about not getting it. Here's the thing. If you don't get out there and try to get the listings and set the appointments, then we're not going to, right? But fundamentally, what I find in this listing presentation, when we talk about Googling your address and being aware of all the buyers tools out there, fundamentally, it takes the emotion out of it for the sellers. Most of the time, they're going to look at you and say, well, I've raised my 3 kids here. I've watched them grow up. They're out of the house. Whatever the situation is, whatever their motivation is, that's what we have to match. When do you want to move? If somebody is looking to move right now, what are the complications of moving right now, putting your house on the market? What are some objections you would hear right now? I don't want to buy in this market.
There's nowhere to move to.
There's nowhere to move to.
The inventory is low, so people are hesitant to put their house on the market until they have somewhere to go.
Okay. So when does it change our thinking when somebody says the inventory is low? And we hear about 0.8 months, record lows, right? So what's driving the market?
The number of buyers out there.
Okay, so does it seem like nobody's listing their house? With 0.8 months of inventory, nobody's listing their house. But then if you dive deeper into the numbers, what if I told you from December 2020 and December 2019, listings were up 30% in December of 2020?
Right,
Yet
is the perspective though the seller right now. That's how they're looking at it. The sellers are looking at it as
they're seeing what's out there on the market, and they're seeing, without them knowing those numbers, they just think there's not anywhere to go. There's no house in inventory.
And that's why it's important for you guys to know that, because that's actually a true stat. 30% more inventory from 2020 to 2019. People are listing their house. There's just a lot more buyers right now, which tells you that it's a great time to list your house. Yes, you've got to find something, and we can protect every single listing that comes on the market. Anybody know how?
Contingencies.
Mm-hmm. Well, in this market, your contingency is not going to be taken unless you're done with the process, you're at the appraisal. Okay, so the contingencies, I would talk to lenders about seeing if they qualify for a bridge loan. Okay, bridge loans can take away the contingency. There's something very simple. 9 of my first 17 clients were buyers when I got into the business, were clients that were homeless because their house had sold too quick and their agent did not protect them and they wound up homeless. And it only takes these words. Write these down. We can protect you if you want to get into this market by putting in seller to find suitable housing. That means there's no guarantee that you're going to sell, but we're going to put it on the market, see what we get and see what we can find and go through the process. And if we don't find anything, that's okay. Yes, it's a lot of work, but we have to make sure, right? They get to pick. They may get lost.
Can you say that again? We can protect you.
Seller to find suitable housing. That's a big win because not all agents know this. And if you put your house on the market, most likely it's going to sell in the first weekend. And then they're going, we got to find something. And have you even started on that? But then here's the caveat is that we now have to compete with 0.8 months of inventory. And now the panic sets in. Now we have to find a house, but there's not much to choose from. In a normal 5 to 6 month market, you can see 30 houses a day, right? Now you're looking at one at a time. And you're getting in there, most likely you have an offer deadline. So there's a lot of hiccups. Now, what seller to find suitable housing means, it means that we're going to protect them. That means the buyers have to work with us. So if the buyer's not going to work with us, then they're not even going to put in an offer, or they shouldn't put in an offer, right? But that means we're going to need a rent back. Okay, and sometimes your buyers can offer a free rent back. Sometimes your buyers can offer, offer to pay once it closes, that your sellers pay the buyers PITI. There's a lot to this, isn't there?
It also puts you in a stronger position for the sellers to buy their next house if they're already under contract, right?
If they're pending. And we just had, and that was true, I just had 20 offers on a house. And the offer that we wound up accepting happened to be the highest, but it was a contingent offer on their house selling with a disabled child and a mother-in-law living in the same house. And they're through the appraisal stage, they're through every part of it. And we felt comfortable enough to give it to them. That we're far enough along in the process that would work. Okay. So it changes, like he said, it changes the contingency. Once their house goes pending, it's no longer contingent. It's not putting them in a bumpable buyer status. Okay. So when we talk about putting it into effect, the bumpable buyer status, if the house is pending, it takes it to we're going to buy this as long as this house closes. It's based on the sale of their home. And you want to write that into your offer. Okay. So we want to talk about these things. The listing presentation is part of these things. These are things you're going to need to know because these are the fears that are out there with sellers right now. And that's a real, because your most likely objection is going to be, I don't want to buy a house in this market. I don't want to look, we're going to wait it out. We're going to wait till the pandemic's over. Okay. So the listing presentation. So as we talk about these objections, these are all going to be huge. I'm totally off on win the seller because these things are more important than the base model stuff, because these are going to be your real conversations to have. So it's knowing these scripts and say, okay, what do we do when somebody asks you, what are you going to do to list my house? What are things that you do? What sets you apart from the competition? Let's just unmute and throw some things out there. So when you list, what's your marketing plan? What is your listing presentation? How do you get them involved? Right? We talk about professional photography. With COVID, we're going to make sure that everybody nationwide can walk into your house and do a Matterport 3D, a 3D virtual tour where they can take a step into every room. That should be going on in every house right now. Why? Because if somebody from New York wants to move here, if somebody from California wants to move here, if somebody nationwide wants to move here, they can step into the house themselves and do a tour. Zoom in on the cracks on the wall. Probably see it better than when they walk in the door, right? We're going to do in applicable places, drone photography. Professional photographer, do not be cheap on that expense. Don't walk in with your cell phone and take 5 pictures.
Do we pay for that?
In most cases, yes. Sometimes if you're just starting out, ask the photographer if he'll do it after close. If he believes in his work, then it shouldn't be a problem, right? Is this something that you do? So it depends on your photographer. Mine is a local family friend and he does great work. He's been in the business 25 years. Okay. So knowing it, what kind of marketing are we going to do? We're going to put out property flyers. We're going to do individual flyers. We're going to do in some cases, we do perma flyers where that just sticks to the board, your sign. We're going to attach QR codes on that flyer so they can just pull up the house's own website. Hey, your house is going to have its own website. One of the things that I do is I will then order mini business cards to go with the sign and attach it to the sign. Some print places have that. Why? Because then if somebody's walking by, they can just grab, and it's basically a flyer of the house. It's got your information on the back of it, and it's the information of the house. And they'll be circling throughout the neighborhood. And the best thing is when you have those, you give them what's left and tell them, take them to work. Take them to your school, take them to your PTA, take them wherever, because we're doing this as a team. But you'll have the tools. And it's on a business card. Okay? The other thing that I do is I walk the neighborhood and I door knock. Why? Because I want every neighbor to know that this house went on the market, and I want this listing to turn into 2 more opportunities. For every listing, we should get 2 other opportunities in the business, whether it's a sell, a buy, or 2 buyers. And we have to think outside the box. How are we going to sell? If it's appropriate. Depends on how well you know the neighborhood. Okay. So we'll walk the neighborhood. We'll drop off 200 door knockers. Invite people to the open houses. How many people want to do open houses right now? Absolutely, every single one of you should. Even with COVID, there are protocols in place. But right now, from what I saw this weekend, every real estate agent should feel like a bouncer at a nightclub with a cover charge. Or you're waiting outside and you've got your line outside, you're bringing one in at a time, or maybe having 2 to 3 there for your open houses. It's just really hard to manage by yourself, because if it's one at a time, then the line, they're having a party outside. You need to keep safety protocols in place. So I do open houses. So after I walk the neighborhood on Friday, I usually go live on Thursday for my listings. Friday is I walk the neighborhood and invite 200 of the closest neighbors. I do my Facebook live. And then I invite the neighbors to the open house. And it just depends on where you're at. So, but as business grows, there's ways to just have different opportunities. I was competing in a neighborhood where there's a restaurant that was really popular for 40 years in the neighborhood that closed down due to the condition of the building, and the landlord let it go to waste. But I was a fan of that restaurant, and I knew they had a food truck. So I called up the food truck, got the listing in that neighborhood, called up the food truck and said, hey, you want a place to put your food truck this weekend and come back to your original neighborhood? And he said, yeah, we worked out, you have to pay for that. So as it goes up, then you establish a price. It's like catering, how many dollars a plate type of thing. The nice thing about a food truck was that people walked up, they ordered their food, they came in the house, they signed in, they toured the house, they came back out, boom, and then they'd have their food. So think outside the box, right? Food trucks have $25,000 followers. If somebody's a fan of a food truck, they follow them on Facebook. All of these things are just different ideas to put it together, right? Mm-hmm. They get to pick their neighborhood. When we're out door knocking, we want to emphasize that we're not soliciting anything. We just want to give you the opportunity to pick your neighbor. See, that's part of my job too, is to improve your neighborhood. So if you know anybody who's looking to buy, sell, or invest, here's my card. And here's the information on the house. I hope to see you there. Okay, staging. Now staging, we put on the owner, the sellers. If they want to stage, we can use their furniture. Of course, if they want to use their furniture, we can help them declutter. I tell everybody when they're getting ready and they're packed up, and look, you're moving anyway. So start packing stuff. No more than 3 things on a shelf. And if you have any family pictures, anything like that, it's best to put those away. I would hate, and then you also want to put away any valuables, any heirlooms, anything like that, and make sure it's tucked away. Or, as I tell people, put it in the garage, because you're going to move eventually. And when the U-Haul pulls up, most likely, if there's a garage, you roll up the garage and it's just one-time move, right? You're not touching the boxes 2 and 3 times. So staging, I put it on them. If they want to, it can be expensive. Technology, we have scanned, the QR codes on our flyers. That will be on, and wherever you can direct those anywhere you want. It can go to the house. It can go to the house website. It can go to your contact information to capture that lead. There's a lot of things you can do with technology. The minute we go live, we're going to go on the KWL listing service. It is Keller exclusive. Your home's marketing information goes 24/7 to hundreds of online services. It'll appear on top sites such as Zillow, Realtor, Google Maps, Yahoo, HomeSnap, Home Finder, John L. Scott, whatever KW, it'll go on to all these websites. Okay. It'll have your own, you'll have your own website. We've gone over that. Social media marketing. We'll do some Faceagram. Anybody know what that one is? It's Facebook and Instagram combined, which they're owned by the same company, but and YouTube. Okay. And then we do open house and showings, and we explain to them that they're going to have to leave for every showing. Sometimes health becomes an issue where they can't leave, they don't want to leave, or whatever it is. If they have health issues, then you work around that. You just get to work with the buyers that come in. Okay. And then we take offers usually on Monday night or Tuesday afternoon. Just depends. Every single one of my listings stay on the market for 3 to 5 days. Usually it's Thursday and we cut off on Monday night, and then we review offers on Tuesday. And I let my sellers know that. Okay. And here's why. Can anybody tell me why I would leave it on the market for 3 to 5 days?
More time, more exposure, more offers.
See, one of the other things that I want when I go into the listing presentation is I tell them, when I ask them what the value of their house is, I tell them I would love to tell you what your house is going to sell for. You would love to tell me what your house is going to sell for, but I can't. The only thing we can do is expose it to the market and get you the highest price the market will bear in the shortest amount of time. You see, listing and list price is going to determine that. You have 3 different strategies you can pick from when you list your house. You can list 5 to 10% under list, value, what your CMA says, and that will expose it to between 75 and 90% of the market. If you go at fair market value, where you're kind of right on the cusp of, this is about where it should sell, that drops the people that come and look at it between 45 and 60%. And then if you overprice it, then that only reaches 10 to 15%. Because the key isn't that they find it online. The key is that they actually get off their couch and come see it. Okay. Does anybody have any questions so far? I know it's a lot of information. You feel like you're going to come out of this with better agents?
Yeah.
More experience?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, actually,
So,
sorry.
Go ahead.
Hopping back a few minutes to that
Yeah.
seller to find suitable housing that you put in the listings.
Yeah.
How exactly does that work, and how do you protect them in that way? I mean, I get the gist of it, but like, how does that work mechanically?
Mechanically, it works like this. Okay, it lets every buyer know that if they're going to put in what they're going to put when they put in the offer, that we're going to need a rent back. And this is why it's important to establish relationships with other agents. This is why when you're working with buyers, right? So we can take everything that we learned from working with buyers and put it into our listing presentation. Because mostly you're probably working with buyers, but that's why we establish communication and build our rapport with the listing agent. And so one of the questions I always ask when I'm working with buyers to the listing agent is there anything that would make our offer more appealing to your sellers? Are they going to need a rent back? Where are they headed? What is their goal? Where do they want to go? What's their timeline? Because here's the thing you have to know, even if you're working with sellers and buyers, it's the same. The timeline doesn't. When you have somebody that needs a rent back and you can talk about to your buyers, when you can talk about really the seller to find suitable housing and what that looks like. Look, we need to find you a place. So from the minute that we get under contract, we're going to have a certain amount of time for them to do their due diligence, which right now it's probably about, the buyers will have 30 to 45 days to close, okay, on your house. In the meantime, once we get an offer, because it strengthens our position, we're going to hit full force because we're no longer contingent, we're pending, and it's based on the sale of the property, right? We're not waiting for an offer. Okay, so you have to know that too. So once we get our offer, then we've got, there's a lot to this, right? Overwhelming, right? There's a lot to this. And this is why it's important to rely heavily on your mentors, your coaches, and we will teach you this. So they've got 30 to 45 days to do their due diligence. It's going smooth. Your inspections are done. Even every timeline that you pass, you need to explain to your sellers who are now what? They're now buyers, right? You need to explain to them, like, look, we might not get this one. It's still early in the process. They haven't had their inspections yet. But with every opportunity that you pass through the selling process, the inspections, the disclosure period, the inspection period, and the appraisal period, your offer gets better each time. Once you're past the appraisal time, then you're just pretty much like another buyer. Very little can go wrong at that point. Does that help? Okay.
Yeah, no, that's great.
So from the minute that you have an offer, you start looking. You have an idea. You maybe started looking while you were showing the houses. You're showing their house. Okay. Maybe, well, you've got an open house going. You're showing properties to them, right? There's ways to do that where you open the open house to somebody else so they can get leads, and then you're giving them a reason to get out of the house for hours and go looking at houses. Okay, I've done that before too. Okay, it's just thinking that you have help, right? You don't have to do it all on your own, and we're all here working as a team together, and understanding that, yes, as much as you'd like to do the open house, it's more important right now that we go find you something. I've got somebody else in the office that will do my open house because they want contacts too, but we need to find you a house. Okay? Don't be afraid to use everything at your fingertips. Once you start looking, every offer becomes more. So you can get 30 to 45 days there, right? So seller to find suitable housing, you're starting there. You've got 45 days to find something, but then you can get a rent back from the buyers of your house, of your seller's house. You can get a rent back for up to 59 days without penalty to the buyers. That's a big number. And that's a number you're going to want to know. Can anybody tell me what happens at 60 days?
Established tenant landlord relationship. Is that?
I thought that was at 90 days.
That is 90 days.
That's 90 days. 60 days the buyer's financing, if they're not in the house on day 60, becomes non-owner occupied, which will then raise their interest rate, which will then raise their payment. Okay? So it's important to know that.
Hey, Chris, I know this isn't about the listing presentation, but I'm sorry, Matt, this is really about, we're right in this zone. And so when it comes, let's take today's market out of it. Traditionally, most commonly, when you have a seller and we go to the closing table, the seller probably has some things still left in the house, right? Because they need that cash to go buy something. Is it just a mad dash, like the day of closing, you've got a U-Haul there and the seller's moving everything out and then the keys are exchanged? I mean, what's the most common way that takes place?
In some instances, yes. But a lot of times, some of the sellers just can't afford to move until they get the money from the house, right? And if money's tight, one of the things I do when I represent my buyers is, and especially in a competitive situation, is I didn't learn this till I was selling a house and somebody wrote it into the offer. But her clients were moving from Arizona, or they were moving to Arizona. And they countered that my buyers were to get through the inspection period, get through the appraisal period, and the repair period, and seller to release earnest money after the appraisal and after the repairs were checked off, right? Because you walk through and check off every repair. Every repair that's negotiated, you go do a walkthrough. Okay, whether it's with the inspector or if it's something that you're comfortable with, you can do that. Okay, so really knowing that, but what that allowed her clients to do 2 weeks before close, they took the earnest money, went and got a U-Haul, packed up their stuff. I thought it was brilliant. And it's also a way that you can win in a multiple offer situation. Right? We're willing to release earnest money. I like to protect my clients at all costs. Yes, we'll release our earnest money and we'll release it after the appraisal and after the repairs are walked through. Because that gives them time. Because otherwise, exactly what you are saying happens. Hey, we just closed at 2 o'clock. They started packing that morning. You show up, possessions at 5 o'clock. Now, if you're on the seller side, you should know that, hey, my clients are going to need 3 days to get out of the house after close. Or you present your sellers with this and say, hey, what if we get them to release earnest money after the appraisal? Then we can take that money and start packing and moving to wherever you're going. It's another option, right? Because we're private investigators and we're trying to find solutions to their problems. We're problem solvers. And that depends on your relationship with the sellers. And that's really where you're going to get it. Okay.
I'm sorry, I have a quick question. When you say,
no, don't apologize for having a question.
well, I think I
Pet
might
peeve.
have missed it, but when you release the earnest money, because generally on the buyer side, it would go towards closing costs as long as they follow, all their
Goes towards
timelines,
the
right?
goes towards the down payment. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you if you're a buyer and you're saying release the earnest money, like give it to the seller, like you hand it to them, like they get to keep whatever the dollar amount was.
Yeah. So if you put $2,500 in, or $3,000 in earnest money, and that's sitting in an account, right? That comes off the paperwork and is going to the sellers anyway. Okay. And the key here is with your buyers that it's done. Okay. This could be that the repairs are done, the inspection's done, the repairs are done, you've walked through, you've signed off. There's really nothing that can go wrong at that point. You have a conversation with lending. You want to make sure everything is solid and good to go, and there's no other surprises. Okay. And you need to know that for to protect your clients. In this market right now, there's people making the earnest money non-refundable from the minute they put it in, right? Put in the offer. You accept this offer, it's going to go right to non-refundable.
I have first-time home buyers, and I'm super upfront with them because I don't want like their time wasted, or I mean my time wasted as well. And so they were really stuck on $1,000 earnest money deposit, like with their offer. And I explained to them that in this market, like for instance, the house I just sold had a $20,000 earnest money deposit on it. And so even though my sellers had several dollar amounts over their 500 sale price, they really liked the look of that earnest money. So I kind of use that as an example because that's why they chose the deal they did, because they felt like the buyers were serious. So mine are really stuck on this first time home buyer thing and buying USDA and only wanting to put $1,000 forward.
Okay, so when we work with buyers, the important thing is to bring the emotion into it. So we want to talk to them like they're sellers. Well, if this was your house and you were selling it, how important would earnest money be? And earnest money shows us what? How invested our clients are in the game. How invested are they into this house? Right? And so that's what we want, is the buyers to bring that emotion that we don't want sellers to have. Sellers are all about the highest price the market will bear. So it's kind of it's a flip game, right?
And I explained it to them that way, and so they understand the difference. Like their big example was they had this friend who lost, their earnest money at no fault of their own. But from my training, I have been taught that that's actually really hard to do. And so I explained that to them as well. As long as they're upholding their standards, that's kind of difficult to actually lose your money from what I've learned. I don't know, is that factual?
That's actually factual. There are certain protections put in for the buyers throughout the process. And that's important to set that up with your sellers and walk them through what does the process look like. We're going to get an offer. And the other part of this is your negotiation with the seller. That's just the first negotiation, getting them to sign your contract. But then there's 3 other points to the negotiations and explaining that look, they're going to have preliminary title. So if there's a lien, if there's something fishy with the HOA, if there's something that they can back out of it and still get their earnest money back. Okay. And it's important that your sellers know this. So that's a very good point. Okay. Is that we educate them not just on from the listing, but we educate them what comes next. Okay. And really we want to be able to understand, have them understand the process. And a lot of them don't. They think what we do is easy. If you talk to FSBOs, right? If we talk to FSBOs and we want to get in front of them, what's the most common way to get in front of a FSBO for a listing presentation? Right now, hey, inventory is really short. I've got a bunch of buyers I can't find homes for. I would love to be able to come and preview your home to see if I have any buyers that it would fit. It's a simple, that's just, are you working with buyer's agents? More than anything, and this is what I'm going to change your mindsets here in a minute. The thing that paralyzes us the most and keeps us from doing what we're supposed to do is fear. Fear of being perfect. We can't go talk to people because we got to be perfect. Okay, and somebody told me this and it's stuck with me ever since, but perfection is paralysis. Nobody's perfect, but it stops us from doing the things that we should be doing. And that's actually getting on the phone and making our contacts and making our calls. See, I started when I went through Ignite, somebody told me, we were talking about mindsets. And my belief is mindsets are the only thing it's the only thing we can control in our life. When we're having a rough day, we need to change our mindsets. If it's not going perfectly, it's easy to get down. It's easy to take those emotions. But if we're purposeful and we have the right mindset, then it becomes easier. Those bad days become less and less and less. They just become bad moments. And every moment is different. Okay. So this guy and I were talking. He was kind of my coach, mentor as we were talking. And he asked me what my mindset was. And I says, I'm in a job where it's 100% commission. I'm in a career and I've chosen this career and I love this career and I wouldn't change it for anything. But every day I roll out of bed, I wake up with the intent that I am unemployed. I'm unemployed and I got to go get my business. Every day is day one. There is no day two. This is way beyond the listing presentation, but this is about mindset to get us to the listing presentation, to get us in front of people. What happens at day two? We get complacent. We stop doing the things that we should be doing. We are educators. We're teachers on a very specialized system that not everybody can do. Not everybody has the technology and the resources to do it. Right now, are there people that you know that could be in forbearance in their home because they've been unemployed? That have more equity in their home, but they're thinking they're going to ride it out until they have to walk away. And then they're going to have some sort of credit repair or some sort of bankruptcy on their credit, right? But we can stop those things from happening because we have the education and we have the knowledge. And we have the passion to help people. So listing presentation, winning the sellers. Sorry about that little mindset, and that's really where you need to go, right? What gets us into making those phone calls? The more people we help in a day, even if it's just stopping for that guy off to the side of the road that's got the flat tire. That feeling when he's on the road and back to where he wants to go, and your heart just feels up. The more people that we help, the more the inside is just coming out. And you can't duplicate that. The only way to duplicate that is to help more people. To talk to sellers, find out why they're not. See, changing your mindset's real easy right now. What if I were to tell you your career has nothing to do with you? Your job has nothing to do with you. It's not about how many houses you've sold. It's not about how many people you've helped. It's simply asking them the questions, your sellers the questions, to find out where they want to go, when they want to get there, how fast do they want to get there, and what kind of strategy we can put together to get them to where they want to go. And if they have confidence in you with that strategy, you're going to have a listing. I've never had somebody ask, how many houses have you sold? You know what I don't do? Or do you know what I do at that point? I don't answer the question. I revert it back to them. What are you looking for in your agent? Your answer is not important. What's important is that you can get them to where that you have more of a vested interest in where they want to go than they do. Because selling your home, this is your number one investment. This is your number one. This is safety of your home, your family, puts a roof over your head, supplies warmth, keeps everything. This is your number one investment. And you don't take that lightly. And neither should they. And that's why they should hire you. It's because you're going to get them to go where they want to go in the time that they want to get there. And you're going to make sure that they are protected. In a simple rundown. Okay. Well, I'll run through it. My listing presentation is usually about 15 minutes. I knock on the door. I get there 15 minutes early, look around. Okay. I'm going to give you this is exactly what we do. So this is what you do. Hey, we have an appointment at 3 o'clock. You know, hey, Ernie, it's Matt. We got an appointment at 3 o'clock. I'm here. I love what you've done to the front yard. Love this. Looks like you've just recently painted. Is that correct? I love what you've done. I think it's going to show well. See, because when I list your house, I want it to be market ready day one. Oh, wait, I haven't decided if I'm going to work with you yet. Oh, that's okay. You know, is it okay if I come in and we sit at the dining room table? Absolutely. Come on in. Take off your shoes, put on booties, whatever. Show respect for the home. Okay. Sit at the dining room table. Hey, once again, thank you for having me. I'm excited to get to work with you. So we're asking for closures. You're asking for the business every single time. And I really want you to know how much I appreciate your home. First thing I want to do is walk your house through the eyes of a buyer. And then we'll sit down and we will establish your motivation. We'll talk about where you want to go, how fast you want to get there, and we'll devise a plan. Okay, then we're going to talk about price. And we're going to develop a pricing strategy. And then we're going to decide whether or not you want to work with me or I want to work with you. It's okay if I go walk the house? Absolutely. You pull out your clipboard, pull out your disclosures. Hey, quick favor, when you list with me, this is paperwork we're going to have to do. I know your time is valuable and so is mine. If you start filling this out, this will tell us everything we need to know. This will tell the potential buyers everything that they need to know that you know about the house. And it's anything, it's going to go through your plumbing, it's going to go through your sewer. If you've got a right to sell the house, it's going to ask you about your HOA. It's going to ask you all of these questions that you need to answer truthfully. And tell everything that you need to know. And if you've had a water leak, we need to know about it because they're going to find it in an inspection. And this is the number one thing that people get sued on. So I want you to take this very seriously. So now I'm going to go walk the house. I'm going to, if that's okay, through the eyes of the buyer. Some of them may say at that point, do you want me to come with you? My answer to that is no, I don't want you. Actually, I appreciate the offer, but I really need to look at it through the eyes of the buyer since you're not going to be here when you have showings. So you're setting the expectation right there that they're going to be out of the house for every showing. Okay, if you could just work on the disclosures, that'd be great. And then when I come back and sit down, we'll go over what's great about the house and what work needs to be done before we go live on the market. Okay, great. Walk the house, take your notes, point out anything that's great, point out and point. This is where you're having your fierce conversations. If you notice a water leak, you're writing it down. If you notice, you're testing the faucets. You're testing the water pressure. You're looking at the age of the furnace. You're looking at the age of the water heater. You're looking at all of these, these things, right? all through the eyes of a buyer. What's important? The 5 pillars: electrical, plumbing. Okay. And then you come back and you sit down at the table. Hey, I love the house. I think it's great. A couple things I did notice as I was looking through the house that I want to know how we want to attack before we establish a motivation and price. That sponge painted wall in the bathroom, we probably want to just put another coat of paint, like a, gray, blue, whatever color you choose. But before we go live on the market, that will really update the house and probably garner more money. It's my job here is to get the highest price the market's going to bear in the quickest amount of time. So we want to make it more appealing to everybody. It's not just the people with the same taste as you. That gold and black bathroom with the black faucet and the gold trim around the tub, we're probably gonna have to change that out. And this was a good friend, but I had to tell him. I love that you love black and gold, but you are limiting your resources. You are limiting your activity. See, if we make it so it's for everybody, we're going to sell it. We're going to sell it fast. Okay. So now as we sit down, a couple things I did notice is that bathroom, there's 2 bathrooms we probably need to paint. I do have some contractor resources that would be happy to help. Or do you have a handyman that that you trust to do the job and do it right? Why is it important to ask that? See, the rules change when you put your house on the market. Once the repairs are asked for, you have to have it done by a licensed and bonded contractor. Before the listing, they can paint it themselves. As a homeowner, you have more carte blanche to do things around your house that don't necessarily need, or a permit. So that's why it's important to know these things, because now we're looking out for their pocketbook. Like if we do this before we go live, then we can save you money on the back end. Or we can make it so we get a full price offer versus, yeah, that bathroom needs to be redone and the other master bathroom needs to be redone. So therefore, yeah, we'll come in 10,000 under list price. We want to make it suitable. This is the mindset that we need to have. Okay. And if we can do that, then I think we're in the market, right? I love that you put the hardwoods throughout. That's very entertaining. What people love right now is great. It fits what everybody wants. You've got a gray paint in this room and this room. Is painting going to be something you want to take on? Okay, so now that you're willing to take it on, can you get it done by this weekend? It's not your job to do it. We're just guiding them. We want them to get the highest price the market will bear in the shortest amount of time. Notice I keep repeating that, okay? And it's our job to get that ready and get them to that point. Do you need help packing stuff? Maybe it's a hoarder situation. Do you have companies that you work with? I have a company that I work with down here in Portland that is college hunks removing junk. Okay, it's kind of funny. And then the sellers get a little bit excited. They're like, at least the female does. She's like, oh yeah, let's bring them in, but they're a good, reputable company. If it's a sewer, if it's a septic situation, make sure you have septic people to work with. So that's what you should be doing right now. If you're not at the listing appointments, is building and asking questions so you can answer all of these questions. Is it a septic system? Is it a well? What happens in the well, right? Well, generally, if you're in the listing appointment and you have a well, usually the buyer pays for an inspection and a flow test on the well. Now, in a septic situation, usually in a non-competitive market, usually the septic or the septic inspection, the owner pays for the pumping and the buyers pay for the inspection. So that's usually split. Now that can change in a competitive market. Buyer may incur all of those costs. Okay, it's important to know these situations. So you're kind of getting a little bit of seller and buyer today, which is important because there's a whole lot of things that can come up. Okay, and as we're talking about these things, when we notice it's a well, we bring that up. So they're not surprised at the offer, when the offer comes in and you see that, hey, they've asked you to pay for it. They've asked you to pay for the removal of the pump. Have you had it pumped? When was the last time it was pumped? When was the last time the water heater or the furnace has been serviced? Is your AC working properly? Okay, is it AC ready? We're investigating the home while we're there. We're asking these questions. But when we're sitting at the table and we haven't come to all of this, we're just asking the simple question, when we put your house on the market, what's your plan? Ernie, what's your plan? Where do you want to go? Okay. How fast do you want to get there? And do you have a place picked out? Okay, now we're going to talk about establishing a price point. Do you have any idea what your house is worth? Tyler, do you have any idea what your house is worth?
Well, 0, because I don't own one, but yeah, I get what you're asking.
Okay. Destin, what's your house worth?
Well, we bought it in August for $570. It's Zestimate's at $585 now.
Very common answer. Great. So you're familiar with his estimate. That's good to hear. I'm glad you're in tune with that. Because you see, now my job is not only to see what other realtors are going to see, but also to see what buyers are going to see. You see, 97% of people have this little tool at their fingertips. You know what price point's going to determine?
How many people are coming through?
It's going to determine the activity. And price point is going to determine, I like throwing out percentages. Price point is going to determine whether or not you want to work with 97% of people or 3%. So I'm constantly giving them choices, right? We're all smart here. How many people are going to say 3%? 0. 0. 0 people are going to say 3%. So now that you know what your estimate is, what I've done is I've Googled your address and I've pulled up all 5 to 7 things and I have an exact amount, but we're going to put more emphasis on this estimate. Okay, so have you claimed your house, Destin, on Zillow? Are all of the bedrooms, bathrooms, square footage, and the lot size, garages, have you claimed your house on Zillow?
According to my wife, we have claimed our house on Zillow. Personally, I have no idea.
I know your wife, and yes, she has. And I would tell you, okay, that's good to hear. So our algorithms are there. And I want to tell you something. See, Zillow has started buying houses, which tends, what I've noticed when I look at it and I study it, is that the algorithms tend to be a little bit low. It doesn't mirror and match what the RMLS says. It doesn't mirror and match what our RPR says. It doesn't mirror and match what Redfin is. It's usually a little bit lower. Why? Because if you decide to sell for cash, if you decide to sell early or just to get out of it, then they're not paying full market value. Okay, how they get away with it, I have no idea. But what I want to talk to you about is actually using that Zillow and that Zestimate and the Redfin and the Realtor. Those will switch to list prices as we as we list. They're tied to the RMLS. So when we hit publish and we go to hundreds of websites, those are all going to adjust to our list price. Sometimes it takes Zillow 24 to 48 hours. Sometimes it takes 15 minutes, but I don't have any control of Zillow. Okay, but I want you to be aware of Zillow. So fundamentally, what do you think your house, what would you like to list your house for?
Well, if the estimate's 585, we should list it for 625.
Okay, well, I can appreciate that you value your house more. You've got a lot of great memories. You've got a lot of, great things have happened in this house. It's built with love and it really shows. And so I want you to understand, first and foremost, I want to get the highest price the market's going to bear in the quickest amount of time. Okay, and the reason we do that, if we want to get to 625, it's not necessarily that we're going to list at 625. Okay, I'm going to take you to buyer's perception. And buyer's perception is hey, if you've got a computer over here, base model for $1,500, and then you have another one over here that's on sale next to it with a Bose system and a webcam, which one are you going to take?
Bose system webcam.
Okay, every single time, right? Okay, so let's put you in the mind of a buyer. If the Zestimate, which people use 3 times, buyers, 97% of people, use 3 times as much as anybody else. Fundamentally, if we list your house at 625 and the Zestimate's at 585, are you perceiving a good deal?
Yeah, not so much.
Okay, but I can tell you it has been over 3 years that I've actually seen a house sell for list price. See, in this market, we have 2 weeks to sell your house at list price or above. I don't care if there's 5 months of inventory, 6 months of inventory, 0.8 months of inventory, which is what we have right now. At 0.8 months of inventory, the competition is hot, and list price will determine the activity. Why? As long as we cater to the people that have the technology at their fingertips, then we can work with them. Okay, so what would you think of listing at 585?
I'd say that's a great place to start.
Okay, but I'm going to throw something else at you. Okay, we're not married. Chelsea, there's a thing that says owners, click here on Zillow. And you can claim your house. It's like a tab. So I'm going to give you something better to think about. Okay, 585 is a great price, and eventually that's what I want you to be able to get up to 625. But how we do that is we're going to entice more people to come to your house. You see, lenders approve their buyers in $25,000 and $50,000 increments. Would you agree with that?
Sounds legit.
Okay. So fundamentally, if we go 10 to 5% less, then we're going to reach more people. And if I can hit that $25,000 increment, and we say we list at 575, that doesn't sound so good, does it?
No, because I really don't want any less than 585.
Okay, I can totally appreciate that. And ultimately, you get to decide what you want to list or what you want to list at, but more importantly, what offers you want to look at. Okay, and as long as if we list below, the buyer's perception is going to be great, right? If you see something on sale and it's marked 10,000 less than the sticker price, are you perceiving a better deal? Are you going to get off your couch?
Yep.
Okay, so if we list at 585, which is buyer's perception of what the market value is, we're probably only going to reach 45 to 60% of people. But if we go 5 to 10% below, research says we're going to hit 75 to 90% of people. Which one would you like to work with? You want to work with the 45% or the 75%?
Let's go with the bigger number.
Okay, so if we hit the 575 and people look, because everybody's got an app, right? And they look in $25,000 increments, right? So what we're going to do at 575 is everybody who's looking at the house from 500 to 575 is going to see it, or they're looking from 575 to 600. So we're maximizing our exposure from day one. Okay, if you go 474.9, could you leave people out of the equation? Absolutely. Okay. You know what the 474.9 is? It's an old grocery store trick that says you didn't even pay $1 for that. It's a car trick that you didn't even pay $100 for that. Okay. Everybody wants the dollar store now. Don't be afraid to go with those even numbers. We want to maximize. See, my job here is not to tell you what your house is going to sell for. I wish I could. I wish I could tell you I could get 625. Okay, but ultimately I get to put it on the market and decide, and we get to expose it to the market to bring in the highest price the market's going to bear in the quickest amount of time. And what if I were to tell you we're going to leave your house on the market 3 to 5 days?
Sounds probably pretty good.
And I'm going to tell you with 0.8 months of inventory, you're probably going to want to leave for the weekend. Okay. And don't be afraid. Some of the things going around our office right now, they're putting people up in hotels for 2 nights. Would that be convenient? If you have a rental house, a VRBO, if you have access to one, send them to that. Because otherwise, I'm telling you, 104 showings in a weekend. Yeah, I'm sorry, you can come back at midnight. You're going to be up at 5 in the morning when the light comes on, right? Or you can go have a good time at whatever. That's a way you can get a listing also. And so it's important that we think about these things. Okay. Real quick, just do that. Thank you. Anyway, my computer's about to die. And so I'm like, son, can you go get my slave labor? Anyway, bad joke. But when we talk about when we get to that point, we talk about the 575. We're exposing it to everybody from 500, 550 to 575, 575 to in the case where I went up against our CEO. I told him I would list at 550 because then I would get everybody from 500 to 550, 525 to 550, 550 to 575, and 550 to 600. So I've hit every single opportunity for somebody to look at that. And that's what those increments do. Right? Sometimes it doesn't work that way. Sometimes the price is just what it is. But if I can hit that, I'm going to hit that. And what are you showing the seller in this situation? How many people would list with me right now?
I think it shows that you care, that you are knowledgeable and really looking into your seller's best interest. Yeah, I think
Absolutely.
I think that it really sells well and feels comfortable. I would do it.
And thank you. This is a long time coming, and this has been put in by failures. This has been put in by what I perceive as failures. But failures now, for me, when I say fail, it's my first attempt in learning. It's my growth. I'm going to learn more from every failure that I go through than any success that I have. What are some, so Chelsea, did you figure out how to claim your house on Zillow?
I don't know. I think maybe I already did claim it, but it's saying like I can unclaim it, but I don't really
Okay,
know.
You've
So I mean,
claimed
I
it.
guess I've done it before. Apparently, I don't remember that, but
Okay, failing forward, perfect. That's And I didn't know what that one situation would propel me to. Here I am, a new agent, KW, finished Ignite. 90% of my business was buyers. My business is in 2 years has turned to 65-35 sellers. Because I want to get people and I want to get them the highest price the market's going to bear. Let's not forget, what's the number one reason that they should list with you? Because you
More
want to get them the
exposure.
high.
More exposure.
That's exactly right. You're going to get more exposure. You're going to get somebody who knows what they're doing, who's passionate, right? What I take into every listing appointment, and I don't know how you feel about your house or whatnot, but what I take into every listing appointment is this is your number one investment. This provides the safety, the security, the warmth, the roof over your family's head, and I don't take that lightly. And I want to get you, it's also your number one investment. Hey, Destin, will you reduce your commission? Oh, you're not muted. You're still muted.
Yeah, I prefer not to. Doesn't mean it won't happen.
Okay. That's a real, that's an honest answer. Tyler, will you reduce your commission?
Probably same answer as Destin. I would probably counter if asked about it, you know, that I could likely get them, you know, the best price that the market will bear as quick as possible. And that
is that could this be a real question that you get?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Especially, you know, if somebody figures out that I'm new. I think it's certainly something that could come up.
Okay. So
I feel like it comes up pretty quickly because people want to know, you know, like we're selling our house, but how much are we actually going to get? How much are you getting? So
my job is to net you the most money, right? Is to net you the most money. Okay, and I can appreciate the fact that this is your number one investment. This is your family's, and I don't take that lightly. Okay, and take a minute. So why do you ask? Tyler, why do you ask? Why do you want me to cut your commission? Cut my commission. Let's role play here for a minute. Why do you want me to cut my commission? So everything that he asks is everything that the seller asks. It doesn't matter what I do. It's like, okay, so why do you ask? It could be that a neighbor just told them what to do. Hey, you know, they have discount places to go, right? Everybody knows Redfin, they'll list for 1.5. They have Hassan used to be 1%. You know, they have all of these discount brokerages. Okay, so why do you ask? What's your motivation in asking? So it all comes back to we're investigating why they're asking. If you give them an answer, right? Great. Another agent told me they're going to reduce their price. You know what the combat for that is? Well, that's great to hear. Did you have to browbeat them to get the 1% or to get the 1% listing price, or did they just offer it up as part of their mantra? If you walk into a listing and say, yeah, I'll even give you, you know, I'm new, so I'll give you a listing discount.
I'd have to wonder about the agent that goes in and leads with that, just because it sounds like they're not very confident in themselves.
They just want their,
like, it seems like you would lead with the value you have to offer rather than how cheap you are.
Exactly right.
If
Which
that's
is
their own
exactly
product,
so this is how you combat the Redfins and the discount brokerages. Okay. That sounds great, and I can appreciate that they want to do that, but if they're just offering to sell your house for 1%, okay, I value this as this is your number one investment. Okay, and you're putting me in charge of your number one investment. And if I can't even value my own money, do you want me in charge of your most important? When you hear that, does it change? Or do you want somebody who's going to get you the highest price the market's going to bear in the shortest amount of time? It changes your thinking, doesn't it?
We have a small script of that also. That basically says if that agent can't negotiate their own wage, how are they going to negotiate the best price for you?
I used until I heard that story. So this was a story from my coach, and she said, it was kind of funny because she said, here we are sitting here, and he's telling me he's moving from a different state, and he's telling me, yeah, I just got a list that my listing agents do it for 1%. And she brought this up. She said, that's great. She goes, but that's your number one investment. That's your equity line. That can be your retirement. That can be so many things. Not only is it the security and the roof over your family's head, and you just put somebody in charge of it that doesn't value their own money. How are you going to feel there's 3 more negotiations and you've just put them in charge of your money? It's a legitimate question. Ask that question and they go, wait a minute. You know what he did? Called up the agent and fired him. It gets you to think on a whole different level, right? And we want them to think. And once again, it's not answering the question, it's asking a different question. Will you reduce your pay? I don't know. Would you ask your heart surgeon as he's wheeling you in to take a discount? There's many ways you can play this, right? You know, we can sit here all day long, but I want you to call your boss right now and tell him you're going to do his work, the work they're asking you to do, for less money. I'll sit and wait. But yet you expect the same out of me. And let's just talk about human nature, right? If I reduce my commission, what happens? Human nature says, I'm not going to work as hard for you. Human nature, our motivation and our mindset changes. We've somehow failed ourselves. It changes our mindsets, and we need to go into it with the right mindset.
I would imagine that there's also some issue that you could bring up about, you know, if you're taking less money for the work, then obviously whoever's doing that has to actually get more work in order to make it happen. And there's only so many hours in the day, so the amount of time they'd be able to devote to your listing goes down inherently. Is that
Absolutely. Absolutely. The biggest thing is if they don't value their own money, how do you expect them to value your money? This isn't the only point of negotiations, right? Because they have to have a thorough understanding of what's going to happen from the process. And that process starts with, you know, the offer, then it goes to our disclosures and our preliminary title, which is an opportunity, our HOA, where where the buyers are doing their due diligence. And then it goes to inspections. Most common inspections are your professional inspections, your sewer, and your radon. Do you know what those are? The professional inspection is going to lead us to the 5 pillars of the home, which is your roof, your siding, your electrical, your water, and your plumbing, and your furnace, your heating and cooling, right? So those are your 5 pillars that the inspection is going to run you through. Okay, sewer scopes. You're going to want a sewer scope. I would totally, if your buyer looks at you and says that they don't want a sewer scope, then I would say, look, there's a couple things to know when you're dealing with sewer. And that is, in Oregon, we have a lot of trees. Trees have roots and they look for water. And I would tell you 3 out of 5 of my sewer scopes come back bad.
Wife had one on a new construction. They did a sewer scope and they found a belly in the pipe. They had to tear it up and fix it.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. New construction. I've seen it where they put in the piping, they cover it, the ground's soft, and all of a sudden they drive over it with this big heavy machine, dump truck, whatever it is, that crushes it. Now, the sign of a good builder is when he protects his work. Okay, so I want to take the last little bit here, and I want to go over. Anybody have any questions?
I do.
Yes.
Oh.
No, go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, Tori. Go ahead.
And there's a toddler, but you gonna lay down. Okay. Just as a newer agent and currently I am working with a buyer, how does a person like myself get an understanding of like you're saying, you go through the house from the buyer's eyes and things about like water heater and paint and all these things. How do I get that experience?
One of the things that we take lightly, especially because it's COVID right now, and it's really hard, but I would say get out and preview homes. Walk into homes, take an experienced agent. What are things that they've run into? And really the only way to do it is through experience. The number one thing you can do is be in the office and be around people and have these conversations of what to look for. How do you tell how old a roof is? Is it by the amount of moss that's grown on it? It's the granules. Okay. And you don't know this, right? But I'll tell you I like experiences because they'll give you experiences. They kind of bring you along with me, right? But I had one where our buyers put in an offer and they advertised it as a newer roof, which to me says it's 5 to 7 years old and whatnot. Well, great. We put an offer in, our offer gets accepted. We have an inspection. Our inspector goes up there, says roof needs to be replaced. I'm like, no, it's 5 to 7 years old. He goes, no, it needs to be replaced. So buyers are going, wait a minute, that's a new roof. So I called the seller's agent and said, you advertised newer roof. My inspector's telling me that it's shot. He goes, no, it's like 5 to 7 years old. So he called the seller. Calls the seller, she answers, says, hey, the inspector's saying you need a new roof. And she goes, no, I take great care of that roof. I pressure wash it twice a year. Uh-oh. Never pressure wash your roof. You just took 20 years down to 5. Okay. So we got a new roof. Right? And that wasn't expensive, but she was willing to correct her mistake. Okay. I have a roofing company that he came out and said he was going to take a wire brush and clean my roof. Well, you're not going to take a wire brush to my roof. And he's like, yeah, I am. And I'm like, no, you're not. And because it's all about the granules. Granules are there to protect. He took a wire brush that is like, the wires are about as big as my fingertip, and then it's a brush. And he went along every seam this way and this way, because that's where the moss grows. That was a 7-hour process. But I appreciate the fact that he knows what's going to last. And that's my roofer. That's my roofer. You don't want the guy that takes a pressure wash up there. There's a couple different ways to prove. And these are the conversations The biggest fear we have. What are the 3 hardest words to ask for? I need help. I don't know it all. There's a lot to this business, and you don't learn it overnight. It's going through, and it's okay not to know. Our biggest fear is looking stupid. There's a lot to this. We are marriage counselors, right? We are private investigators. We're asking the questions. Where's their motivation? We're problem solvers. We're educators. We wear a lot of hats. And that's what I want you to take about. It's not about how you answer it, but it's how you ask the questions. And it's how you get in front of people and ask those questions, because ultimately, when you figure out it has nothing to do with you, it has to do with them, and you're just solving their problem to get them to where they want to go. Does that change your mindsets a little? The only way is get in the office, talk to people. What are things you look for? Right? We all love telling stories. It's you hear different stories, you see different stories. Every listing's not going to be the same. How do you handle having, we're all different. That's what makes us great. Diversity, and not everybody's raised the same. But how do you react when somebody calls you in and you have to not be judgmental, and you have to go in with an open mind. I've been to a house, took them 30 days to get, to trust me enough to walk in. I cultivated the relationship. Great, walk in, tour the house. There were 2 rooms she didn't want me to go into, and they were dungeon rooms. How do you handle that? You're going to see things that are different, that is always going to keep us on our toes. And this is why we're always learning. So Dustin says, I like to read through the complete inspection reports and see what they saw that was more than what I saw. Getting together with an inspector and being at every inspection is one of the fastest way you can look through the eyes of a buyer. Great point. And ask the questions.
I actually did that with my current contract
Good.
that we're under, and then had my coach and I she was like, I want to see this house. So Shauna took me we went back out to the house. I just told the seller's agent, hey, we're going to go check it out. It's a learning opportunity. Are you cool with that? I'm a newer agent. And she was like, oh, please go ahead. So Shauna was like, all right, if it goes this way, this is what we're talking about. If it goes this way. So, that was really exciting, but I just thought outside of that one transaction where we're under a contract, so we have access to this house. How does a person continue to learn? So I like the points you guys are making.
Once COVID's over, I'm going to bring back buyers tours, brokers tours on Tuesdays, and I would go to them. Honestly, it's the fastest way because you're getting experienced agents. You're getting my knowledge. You're getting what are we looking for? How many people know to walk through? Okay, there's ways to look through the house through the eyes of a buyer, but there's also ways to look through the house through the eyes of an investor. They take it to a whole different level. They'll put the flashlight up against the wall to show that it doesn't have any structural issues. 1/2-inch cracks on the foundation, right? So if somebody has that and you see a crack and it becomes worrisome, it's usually a 1/2 inch. But there's not a lot of companies that deal with the foundation cracks and whatnot. But I have a company. So if first instinct, when you hear crack in the foundation, who do I need to call? Terra Firma, Ramjack, right? And they want to stabilize it, and it's going to cost $30,000 to $40,000. I have Western Construction. Western Constructions, they use I found out, I met them out there for a bid, and I asked them exactly what they were going to do. We had 5 cracks in the foundations that were problems. And that's good if you notice and you're walking around the house in your sellers, in your listing presentation, you can actually bring that up too and say, hey, I'm a little concerned about these cracks in the foundation. They look to be more than a 1/2 inch. A buyer's going to call that out. An inspector's going to call that out. I'd like to get that addressed and have my company come out and take a look at it. And they know they're not going to put piers up, and they're not going to stabilize it with putting, digging it out and holding it up. But they're going to come out and they're going to seal the crack. They're going to dig it out. They're going to put some 32-inch carbon fiber staples in it. And then they're going to put a 9,000 pound epoxy over it. And it's going to be a quarter of the price that Ramjack and all these other ones are. But having these, or M. Leon Construction, there's another one. So when we have these, you talk about all of these, who do you have in your pipeline that you can work with, and establish the relationships now. Those are part of your contacts and your leads. Right? Okay.
Quick question.
Yep.
I know this is way at the beginning, but the pre-listing packets, when do you use those? Do you use those before you go out to a listing presentation, or how does that work?
You want all honesty? Or you want me to lie? I put this together. And it looks pretty, right?
You never use it?
Okay. 95% of the time it stays in the book. Okay. I use the appraisals. I never did talk about what we use. I use the technology to establish the price. I use the CMAs when those technologies aren't available. And I will tell you, the only time I use the CMA, the actives, pendings, and solds, is when I have to appraise. That's what we're going to use to appraise the house. That's when we get our final offer. List price is not going to determine the final sales price. Okay, so the CMA is there to say, you know what, this is what I think I can approve it up to. How many people would like to have a listing right now that had 104 showings, 19 or 20 offers?
Wait, so to make sure, sorry, go ahead.
No, you don't. It's too much work.
I was gonna say that might be some really, really positive stress. Like
I had hair on Friday. Okay. So what I really want you guys to know is the biggest thing that we have is our passion. If that passion comes through and we take it to every listing appointment, and you go in with a mindset that you're going to get it, you've done your research. 2 years ago, how many people here would think I was afraid to speak in public? I still have my stutter moments, but at the same time, I feel what I have is important to tell you guys, because it can propel your business that took me years to get to. And if I can do that, then I'm going to do that. And when my CEO sat down and said, "You're going to teach this class," okay. I don't know anybody else who uses technology in the way that I do. But all you're doing is using the fingertips using the strategies at 97% of people have at their fingertips. And I learned that by working with buyers. I learned that because they have their filter in their phone and they send it to you, right? They send you the Zillow listing. Check out what I just found. If I'm working with buyers, I explain that it's going to be a team effort. There's no way you can send them every house that comes on the market before they find it too. So you have to temper the expectations and say, look, if you find one, it may not fit your criteria, then we need to reevaluate, right? Not that we need to reevaluate, we need to go look at it. So send it to me because I'm going to learn more. I had my buyer this morning. She sent me a house, $150,000 over her budget. What's the first thought that goes in your head? Buyers are liars. right? I said, so my 3 favorite words are tell me more, right? So I said, tell me more about why you sent me this house. She goes, this would be the ideal house for me. Okay, so my job is to find this house for 150,000 less. Okay. It wasn't, anything. I'm an investigator. She had a thought behind sending it to me. It's not personal. It's just what it is. But now I have a great idea of what she's looking for, what kind of floor plan she's looking at, where she wants to go. Okay. It's all information. So biggest ahas. I want to get through this real quick. Debbie, start us off. What was your biggest aha today?
Aha. Oh boy. I can tell you what I loved, which was definitely walking through the listing presentation from the minute you get there and through the whole process, and how many times you're reminding them of certain values that you have.
By the way, the commission objection will never come up when you show your value.
Yeah, that made sense totally. And I guess the aha was basically you're conditioning that seller from the minute you walk in the door. That's your job, to condition them with everything that's going to come up between you and them.
And that's the important thing. And I'm glad you brought that up. That is the important thing. This is your business and you're the expert. If you walk in, Destin, if I walked into your house and said, what do you think your house is worth? And you said 625, and I said, sounds great, let's put it on the market. Does that sound fun?
Well, it sounds like, yeah.
Because now you're married to 625. So I had somebody call me in Salem, and he asked me, he's a family friend, and he said, hey, we're trying to sell our house. Do you come to Salem? And I said, yeah, I do. And he's like, okay. And he goes, would you come help me? And I said, yeah. He goes, we're just not selling our house. So I did CMAs and whatnot. And he had his house listed at 310. So of course I Googled the address and I said, where did you get the 310? And he's like, oh, well, she asked me what I thought my house was worth. His previous realtor, who he'd let go of, asked me what my thought, and it wasn't a Keller Williams agent, so we're all safe, right? But and she asked what my thought my house was worth, and I said 310, and she said, sounds good to me. And then it didn't sell at 310. So I walked into the listing appointment with him, and he says, I said, what do you think we should list your house? You've tried selling it at 310, it didn't sell. He goes, well, it's not like we're going to put it down at 285. I said, you're right, we're not. The Zestimate on it was 285. So guess where he listed?
275.
So you went lower.
275. And he wound up getting like 289. Okay, so those things, don't get married to list price. Don't get married to list price. List price will determine activity. I can't tell you how many things I see on a website. We have Masters in Real Estate. And you have local website where, local Facebook pages where your realtors are a part of. And I really want you to come through and notice how many people are like, okay, I've actually been called because of my answer about technology. Somebody put on there, hey, my house is listed at the house is listed at 740, there's estimate on it 720. And the guy's answer, the seller's answer was, well, Zillow hasn't been in my house. What do you say to the seller? What would be a good?
Neither has the buyer. Neither have any of the buyers you want to reach.
It's exactly it right there. Why? Because we're going to talk about buyer's perception. You know how to perceive a good deal. And then you put them in the computer mind, right? You bring up the computer. I bring that up in every listing presentation because then they're thinking like a buyer. They say, okay, so your idea is to get more people here and you're complaining that nobody's doing it. But the number one portal that people are determining value on, your house is perceived 20,000 over what it should be. The idea is to get it into the house. We want to get the buyers into the house. And I actually got multiple calls to come speak at different venues because of that. Don't be afraid to share your information. We're here to make better agents. And practice this. Find somebody to have this. I had somebody who was in the business that for 30 years. And we met up at our first bold, and I woke up every morning at 5:45, and we'd go till 6:15 to 6:30 and just do scripts. You get what you invest in this, and it's practice. No actor goes in front of a TV camera without practicing their lines. We're not actors and we don't get paid that much, right? But the possibility's there, we can. There are no limits on what we chose to do, right? What we choose to do. So really understanding that mindset. Tyler, your biggest takeaway?
My biggest takeaway, I think it's, well, certainly the pricing and using Zillow, and that the listing price isn't there, doesn't necessarily determine the selling price as much as it determines the exposure. That's a really big takeaway. But more so just the idea of countering objections to commissions and things like that. That's really helpful for me. Really just, there's a lot here. I don't know that I can narrow it down to one. I also really liked, you know, the emphasis on reaching out to other agents in Keller Williams. I have found that to be true. Basically, that anyone here is super happy to help you out, and that we don't necessarily have to be silent about that when we're talking to potential clients too. Like, I think it's a great selling point that we have a huge, you know, population of agents whose experience we can access.
You're part of the #1 team in the world. Christina, your biggest takeaway? Oh, she's on mute. There she is. Oh, you're on mute.
Let
There
me
you
get
go.
off mute. Thank you.
Yeah.
My biggest takeaway, you've had a lot of, definitely the Zillow, but outside of that, hold on, I took some notes.
No, that's completely fine.
Let me see. I would have never thought about the Zillow aspect of it because
As realtor.
because
Real
I
quick.
always use, yeah.
How many people before this class thought of Zillow as competition? Raise your hands.
I mean, yeah.
Mhm. Our common mindset is to use it. It's our competition. But when we can use it to our advantage, then it's not our competition anymore. I want to send them a thank you letter every single time. So go ahead. Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's okay. Matching their motivation, you know, so like really asking more questions, which I feel like that's where I need to, that's the one thing I need to work on.
And that's where you need, and that works with both buyers and sellers. If they're ready to go and they want you to go look and you look, you know, they're ready to go look and you find them a house and they're like, okay, we're ready to go. And then you're like, yeah, well, let's go see it next Wednesday. You're probably not going to get that buyer, right? Match, be able to clear your schedule to match their intensity. Okay. Samantha, what's your biggest takeaway?
Well, all of it was pretty aha. seeing as I'm new and I'm strictly a buyer's agent right now. But I am doing my first open house this weekend. So when you touched on the open house ideas, I took a lot of notes on that.
So here's the other thing that I would tell you. Even if you're just strictly a buyer's agent, okay, you have to also understand these strategies. And we talk about open houses, by the way. If you call me before you open house, and I will give you scripts and stuff to bring up to the buyers.
Oh, all
right? Because what it comes down to with the open houses is I got more clients knowing about a secondary market. How many people here know about the secondary market?
What do you mean by that?
What's a secondary market?
Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac? Is that what you're talking
No.
about?
This is no, secondary market. If you noticed in my listing presentation, right? One of the things that I said was, I don't care what time of market it is, how many months of inventory it is, with the technology available to everybody at their fingertips, you have 2 weeks to sell your house at list price or above. So the secondary market is buyers who are out hitting every open house that just came on the market, right? That may have seen a house and they valued it as overpriced because it didn't match what the Zillow was saying, right? And that secondary market is what if I were to show you, has your agent told you about, so if they're working with an agent, I got more people that fire their agent because I'd ask them, do you know about the secondary market? I see you're in here on the first weekend of a house that just came on the market. You look exhausted. How many offers have you been beat on? Oh, a dozen. Okay, sounds unpleasant. Have you been told about the secondary market? What's that? Has your agent showed you any houses that are still on the market 17 days or longer after after you've already been to a house that you thought was overpriced? See, now that house, buyers have deemed it to be overpriced. And there's an opportunity for you to go in and get it for list price and below, and maybe get some closing costs paid. But you'll be the only, most likely, you'll be the only one at the table. 9 of my first 17 deals was using that right there. But what did it do? It set me apart from other agents who didn't protect their sellers, that were hopping from couch to couch in 2016. Does that make sense? So when we talk about that, that just sets you apart. That sets you that you know the market. And I really think that really we put our best foot forward. And as long as we are educating at our open houses and we're talking about these things, then you're going to set yourself apart as an agent. I want them to stick around for an hour. I want them to have as many conversations as they can. Open houses are great. It's 3 to 4 hours where somebody walks in that has the same passion and the same interest that I do at this moment in their life. And I get to educate them. And you know what? You know what makes a perfect listing presentation? When they know nothing about me. Other than I'm going to be passionate, I'm going to do everything I can to sell their house. Carry that energy, carry that passion, find that mindset, because it will change your business. If you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. I happily work 24/7 doing real estate. And I wasn't kidding. I had a full head of hair last Friday. No. Anyway, okay. So and take these things to your buyers, to your open houses, right? For buyers, hey, do you know there's 4 points of, 3 points of negotiations? What do you know about the process? Okay, list price is one thing. It's going to determine the activity. If there's a lot of activity, then we're going to have to be prepared to go over. And you may have to talk about things that how do I put this? We may want to put together things that we put together a checklist. You might want to have to shorten your inspection period. We might want to think about releasing earnest money after appraisals and repairs are done. And then we do final walkthrough and we check with lending to make sure everything's good to go. But that way they may have money to move and you're not dealing with the hustle of them moving out the same day, and you show up with a moving truck at 5 o'clock and guess who's still not done moving out? And yes, that's happened multiple times. But then I figured out this strategy. Almost every offer I write has that in it, with the permission of my buyers.
What does it have in it? Just removing the earnest money?
Earnest money to be released after the inspections and the repairs are done and the appraisal is done. Okay. And make sure your clients are okay with it. At that point, you're waiting for nothing. But I said, this may give them the money that they have to move with. They may be waiting to get the proceeds from the house to move. They're going to get it anyway because it comes off your down payment.
I didn't realize escrow can just give it to them.
You have to get signatures.
Oh, okay.
You have to get a release of earnest money contract signed.
Okay.
But it's great because every time the sellers are out of the house, they may take it to say, you know what, we don't need a rent back. We can go get a hotel with the earnest money. It gives them, it just opens up the options, but make sure your buyers are comfortable with it. But what are ways that you can win in a multiple offer situation? That's a whole nother class, right? There's a lot to this listing presentation. There's a lot that you can take with every buyer. Every buyer is a seller. Every seller is a buyer. Samantha, go ahead. You were going to finish. So take away the open house and take these strategies that you use into the listing presentation that I just went over, and have those conversations with buyers because they also may be sellers. But that will set you apart as an agent. Okay, so who's left? We got, who else has a, Stephanie?
Mine was actually what you just went over, the strategies for the buyers, because I've heard from just kind of in casual conversation with friends about, they're thinking about selling, but they're not sure if they're ready to do that because there's just, as they, in their words, there's just not much out there. There's not the inventory. And so they're kind of like hesitant to do the selling piece, jump into the selling piece first. So your strategies for buyers, that was kind of an aha for me because I didn't think about that.
And so, yeah, and actually, and that's the thing, if somebody's on the fence, then you can just bring up what? Hey, do you know there's ways we can protect you and to make sure that you have 3 months? Do you think we can find a house for you in 3 months and get it under contract? Because you have, from the minute you get an offer, right? Their house goes pending, they get an offer, you've got 30 to 45 days, and then you can have up to 59 days after that. So if you do the math, 59 plus 45 is how many? It's 3.5 months. Do you think we're going to find a house in 3.5 months? How bad do you want to move? Can you picture being in your house for another 3.5 months? What's their motivation? What makes it so you want to move? Most people right now, what's happened with COVID, right? More babies, divorces, people need office space. A lot of different equations are coming into it, okay? So I think those are great points. Those are all great points. And there's a quick snippet. So well done. Zoe, biggest takeaway.
My biggest takeaway, well, first off, Matt, what is it that you're looking for in an answer?
I love it. I love
But
it.
to be more specific, I really liked the fact that you kind of broke down a timeline and a process, because I am a process person. I liked the mini business card ideas, but generally speaking, my biggest aha, and this is probably not going to be a really popular one, but it's how much I don't know. The biggest aha is I have so much to learn, and that it's a little overwhelming to think about right now, but really I just need to do more of my homework. I need to start reading and shadowing people and finding mentors to really make sure that I'm as kind of knowledgeable as possible to be able to be that person for the clients that I represent.
Love it. You don't learn this all overnight, but what it does take is being in the office. Your top producers are still at the office every day. Right? Biggest aha.
I think you froze there for a minute, but I think I heard re, so I think it's me.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
My biggest thing is
Jeffrey.
I'm a talker, and I love that you said your listing presentation is 15 minutes. I would have never guessed that you could go in and talk to someone about their biggest financial decision, and that you'd be selling them on yourself and showing them videos and showing them your listing presentation and your glossy everything. And so I love the fact that you basically led the conversation. This is what's going to happen. This is what we're going to do. They're signing paperwork. They're already filling out your disclosure as you're walking the house. And you basically got this down to, listen, in less than 30 minutes, I'm in and out of the house with a listing.
Mm-hmm. And that's exactly it. The presentation goes on for 15 minutes, and then I'm probably getting the paperwork set up, getting it signed, and walking them through the house, right? You still have to walk them through the house and say, this is what we're looking at. Are you willing to take care of this? Give them a list so their house is market ready day one. Okay. And you're leading it. You're setting yourself up as a professional, because as much as their time is valuable, your time is more valuable. If you're there for 3 hours, and the important thing I would tell you this, guys, one of the first things that I've managed to leave out of all of this, so the first thing I do is figure out what kind of personality they are. You know all about DISC personalities, right? If I walk in and somebody's a high D and they're driven, they don't want to hear me. They don't want to hear me go on and on about, Lord knows what, but they want me in and out. Yeah, where do I sign? There's some instances it goes like that. I took a listing once where the guy looks at me with my presentation. He goes, well, let's list it 400. And it was a family and friend discount because I knew him well, but he liked the fact that I was 100% commission. And he said, look, you're going to make more money with more money that you make. So I'll make you a deal. We went at 5.5%, 3% for me, 2.5 for the listing side. And he goes, but I'll tell you what. He goes, if you get me 425, he goes, I'll raise that to 6%. So he actually took my motivation speech and turned it against me and said, if you get me more, I'm going to pay you more. I'm okay with that. That's a net listing, right? Excuse me, COVID cough joke. Chelsea, we got to have some fun too.
So pretty much all of my boxes are checked, and they've all been said on the top things that I really took away. But something I super value is your reiteration of the fact that we jack of all trades. I mean, you kept reiterating like therapist, marriage counselor, like all these things, right? But I think about it as like working in a restaurant, because I did that for many years. So you work from the ground up, right? I've dishwashed, I've bussed, I've been in the pit, I've been a server, a bartender, you do everything. So it's like I showed up at my seller's house ready for photographs, looking nice, meeting the photographer, all ready to go inside. And everything was great except for her master. Her master was a mess. Her bathroom had cleaning supplies. I mean, the whole room was a wreck. So I rolled up my sleeves. I was like, I know how fast photos go, and spent the next 15 minutes scrubbing her bathroom with her and vacuuming and making her bed and reorganizing her closet just so we could get like the perfect shot on photos. But, you know, it's just, I think jumping in there and helping her clean and helping her organize and showing her that I wasn't afraid to get in there and really, you know, get dirty with her to make it look beautiful, to help her sell her home. And in fact, you know, I think that helped with now representing her on the buying end, because she did sell her home for a lot more than she had even dreamed of. And so it all just worked out really well. But just showing everybody that, you know, you can put on many hats, you can get in there, you can roll up your sleeves, and that you're not afraid to do so.
I love that part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know when we talk about marriage counselors, got through my listing presentation. Here's another fun story. Got through my listing presentation. It was actually one of my contractors that I refer business to, and we weren't close type of thing. He's like busy into next November, so I can never use him for anything, but I always know he does great work. And he called me up and said, hey, we're looking at selling our house. And so I went and met him, went through the listing presentation, figured out it probably should be right around 525 for list price. And they agreed. The wife agreed, which is, we all know when the husband and wife's there, that's the main important thing, is what does the wife want to do, right? She's like, I'm okay if we get 525. And I said, okay, I'd like to list at 525, but we're going to capture everybody from 500 to 525, 525 to 550. 2 days before we go live, the husband calls me and says, I want to go 550. I said, okay, tell me more. Well, I mean, we put a lot of work into it. The shop's really nice, and I think we're going to stretch it. You know, I think we want to try to at least get it. I said, okay. And I said, I can go with that. And I said, but we're going to know in 2 weeks. And if we don't sell, then we're going to get a price reduction. And he said, okay. So we get an offer 10 days into it at 540. And the mother-in-law who was going to be moving in with him came out after the offer was accepted and said, no, I don't want to live there. Deal was squashed. And then we didn't have a showing for the next 10 days. So I hit him. I called him up, and I called the wife up, and I said, okay. I said, I know we've been lacking in the showings. It's a hot market. And I said, I think it's time you have a conversation with Jason, with your husband. She said, about what? And I said, I need you to ask him why he doesn't want to move. And she said, no, he wants to move. She goes, I tell him we move. And I said, I would ask him why he doesn't want to move. And I said, the only time I've ever seen somebody raising the price 48 hours is because he's hesitant about moving and he wants to sabotage the deal. And I said, but that's between you two. I said, call me and let me know how it goes. 2.5 hours later, I get a text that says, we're dropping the price to 525. Within 24 hours, we had 2 offers at 525. Did I hit the nail on the head? He was more willing to talk to me about raising the price and sabotaging the deal than talking to his own wife and tell him why he was hesitant. Those are some of the things that we look for. That's when you put on your counseling hat. And those are conversations that you quite possibly can have. And thank you. Good job. Thank you. Go back to bed. So anyway, so at that point, those are the things that we go through on a daily basis. Yes, we want to appease them. Yes, I should have stuck to my guns at the 525. But we gave it a shot at 550. And I flat out told him when we got the 520, the multiple offers at 525, I said, you actually probably cost yourself $10,000 to $15,000 with that strategy, with that boost in price. See, the only indicator that we have to value anymore is what?
Is it time?
Time on the market. time on the market. The more time you're on, guess what? The more time, the less the value goes. You're devaluing your property the more that the longer it's on the market. And that's when we talk about the secondary market. But on that note, one, I appreciate everybody for taking the time. I hope you take something with you and learn something from this. And as always, I think most of you, how many people have my number? How many people want my number?
I'd love it.
I'm gonna blow you up.
I can talk real estate all day long.
Thank you.
And yeah, so just put me in your phones if you guys have any questions. If you have a listing appointment and you need a fresher, there's nothing like, I got the productivity coaching job here. I'm going to dive deep into, because I have a passion for helping agents also, because I don't want them to feel where I went, where I was. And I said, yeah. So I said, okay, let's do this. When we go into this, right, we want to talk about, it's a passion. It's when somebody comes up to you and says, you know what, I have a listing appointment. Can you get me ready for it? I can get you ready for a listing appointment in 10 minutes. Because what am I going to tell you first?
Zillow.
Did you Google the address? It's not just about Zillow, it's about all of them. Right? But when you can walk in somewhere and they're like, I want 340 for my house. Great. Have you Googled the address? I have. And all of those evaluations tell me they're between 318 and 324. So if we list your house at 340, right? Are you going to get off your couch to come see your house? See, list price only determines the activity. The activity will determine the sale price. And we need to get more people here than at your house. We need to get people off their couch and into your house, because that's what's going to sell your house. So we listed at 325.
I'm sorry, I have a quick question. Do you think this still is the case? Oh, am I?
Go ahead. No, go ahead. Mara just said, are you almost done? And I said, oh, yeah, I'm almost done.
I mean, do you think this still applies to the market? Like, because I'm in Bend right now, and I feel like the inventory is a little even less than Portland.
Yes, it applies everywhere.
Okay, it's funny because
check it out first.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
No, go ahead and call me afterwards. I need to get everybody to your Mara class, right? Mara's got her class. Everybody jump off for that. That's for her productivity classes.
Got it. Okay.
So if you have any questions, actually, you've got my number. Call me. I'll be happy to spend some time. Okay.
Thank you very much. Have a nice evening.
Everybody have a great day. Appreciate you and keep up the good work.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.